Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where to begin on this 5th day of May 2014 live worldwide broadcast. I don't know where to start. There is so much news, so much to break down, so much unfolding as we see the conversion of our society from a somewhat free system to a totally authoritarian, oppressive, unfair, unjust, fraudulent system. As in the days of Noah, so will it be in the days of the coming of the Antichrist. To paraphrase a quote out of the Bible, and I was saying that because I saw a story from The Blaze up on drudgereport.com. Are the end times upon us? Author says, unrestrained immorality mirrors pandemic godlessness seen in the Bible. And I thought, instead of looking at all the news that's unfolding, and we will, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, Obama's latest sickening jokes about Rand Paul and the Bundys, Ron Paul exclusive interview up on Infowars.com, Common Core is really the last straw. Getting into the fact that it's a deliberate plan to dumb down our youth. That's what Ron Paul is pointing out. I know you know that and I know that, but the general public is just now realizing this is a premeditated program. Also, Patriot Group protests Cinco de Mayo ban on American flag T-shirts all over the country. Public schools say you can't have an American flag T-shirt. That's up on Infowars.com. CIA and FBI worked with fascists in Ukraine as war in Europe unfolds. I mean, you've got massacres, 30, 40 people being killed a day, mainly by the pro-Ukraine government forces. Again, I'm not endorsing the Russians, but they didn't start this. Most of those areas that are in eastern Ukraine were part of Russia historically. Again, Ron Paul's article, exclusive interview, former Congressman slams deliberate plan to create dumbed-down, obedient population. Obama supporters say not liking Mexican food is racist. I'm not kidding. Students say it's illegal to wear an American flag shirt on Cinco de Mayo. This is all a free speech issue, and we actually have that video as well coming up in the next segment. I think I'm going to get into the whole First Amendment issue and really project forward into the future and ask, what type of balkanized country is this where you can't have an American flag T-shirt, period, in many areas, not just on Cinco de Mayo, and how effective the establishment has been at creating division in this country. Israel wants to give Mount Zion and the Tomb of David to the Vatican. That's a Michael Schneider article up on Infowars.com. Ron Paul has another article up on Infowars.com. Why we are no longer #1. And I've been so busy just trying to put out fires around here and complete a bunch of projects that I haven't even had time to slow down and just pull back from everything and say, where are we as a civilization? Where are we going? What does your gut tell you is going to happen? My gut tells me war, depression, massive change, and that's what all the British Ministry of Defense documents say, the Pentagon documents say. That's what the Pentagon futurists say as a foregone conclusion. But the globalists have created a society where they want that to happen. And then there's this attitude of, okay, let it all collapse. But when it all collapses, people aren't going to really think that. There's this decadent attitude of just let the devil take it. But once the devil takes it, you're not going to like it. So I think I should open the phones up today for first-time callers and ask, what do you think the next year, the next decade, the next 50 years holds? Looking out in the future, give us your futurist perspective. In fact, we're going to do that today after we get into all the news. And there is a lot of it coming up. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday. We're live. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday, the 5th day of May, 2014 edition. Here's what's going to happen. I want to talk about the big picture. Not just the, 35-plus people killed in one day this weekend in Ukraine, mainly by pro Western pro-EU, pro-George Soros forces, more helicopters shot down, obviously, by Russian forces, the civil war that is starting over there by design. Obviously, when you talk about the stock market decline, how it bounces up and down, but overall is declining when you add in devaluation of the currency and all the other cooked numbers on unemployment, inflation, you name it. We've got the evolution towards tyranny in the public schools, where children in their own free reading time or at the library are not allowed to read the Bible, but can read the Satanic Bible. Clear backpacks distributed to Franklin regional students because you're all criminals. We have to know what you have in your bag. Criminal until proven slave, not guilty until proven innocent, not innocent until proven guilty, as it previously was. First, it's innocent until proven guilty, then guilty until proven innocent, now guilty until proven slave. Guilty until property of the state. Guilty until dominated by tyranny. Florida teacher banned Bible from free reading time in class. And then it ties into articles like this one. Too big to audit. Large partnerships escape IRS scrutiny, GAO reports. That's because in the last 20 years, in phases, they've gotten rid of almost all of the IRS investigators for billionaires and multinationals. Because the billionaires and multinationals lobbied to have enforcement against them shut off. And people will say, well, Alex, I thought the IRS is criminal. It is criminal. It's a collection agency for the private Federal Reserve. But if you had fair enforcement of the fraudulent tax, then the elite wouldn't always be lobbying for higher taxes because they're exempt from them. And they get your money in corporate welfare and government contracts and no-bid contracts. That's why all the big billionaires, except for the Koch brothers and a few others, that's why they're demonized and attacked. I'm not saying they're angels either. They just don't lobby for that. They do lobby for their other interest. That's why all the major billionaires, except for maybe Peter Thiel, who's Bilderberg, and Mark Cuban, who's a billionaire, more liberal, but at least more libertarian liberal, and just a handful of others. There's hardly no one out there who isn't a multi-billionaire who doesn't lobby for higher taxes. Because if they don't, the globalists come after them and try to shut them down. Because Warren Buffett and David Rockefeller and all of them, and Henry Kissinger, and the big British and Dutch royal companies, their wealth is a state secret, the British and Dutch royalty, they're cousins. And I don't mean to digress off into this. I got stacks of news. It's just too big to audit. Large partnerships escape IRS scrutiny. GAO report confirms. And it goes on to break it all down, CNS News. This is the issue that we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. There's some good news on the free speech front. High court ruling favors prayer at council meetings. The Supreme Court said Monday that prayers that open the town council meetings do not violate the Constitution even if they routinely stress Christianity. Well, you know why? Because it's an elected council, and they reflect the will of the people. The court said 5-4 decision that the content of the prayers is not significant as long as officials make a good faith effort at inclusion. That's right. You can't say no Muslims are allowed here or no atheist. An atheist can come forward in their 3-minute communication, and they can say, I hate God or don't believe in God or blah, blah, blah. And a Muslim can come forward and say, I believe that, Allah is God and Muhammad is his prophet. And a Christian can come forward and say, I believe in Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Or you can walk forward and say, I like milk for 3 minutes and talk about how a big, frosty, delicious, ice-cold cup of milk is so good at midnight with cookies, but not good for your waistline. You can walk up there and talk about how you're an ornithologist and love Tweety birds. You can talk about whatever you want under free speech. And, folks, separation of church and state under Thomas Jefferson, who I agree with, says the state cannot make an official religion. That's the First Amendment. They've turned that into the state runs religion and controls what you can say and what you can do. Now, what you don't want is a public school officially saying you've got to recite the Bible and recite it as if, saying you accept it. But that's not happening. Under Common Core, all over the country, they are making children recite the Quran and making them pray to Allah and bow to Allah. And this is just done as a litmus test to see can we do anything we want with these kids, and will the parents accept it? Forced inoculations, abortions without parental consent, taking down the American flag on the week of Cinco de Mayo because it's offensive, illegals pulling it down from flagpoles all over the country. This is all meant to test you and see what they can get you to go along with. Now, that said, the first thing I want to get to is a report out of CBS News. It's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And here is the headline. Students say it's illegal to wear an American flag on Cinco de Mayo. In response, Tea Party groups plan to protest. And you know what I want my reporters to do today? We were back there having a meeting about what should the reporters go out and do. I want to send all the reporters out, as well as some of the print reporters if they want to go out. In fact, I'm going to just tell them to go out. I want Don Salazar and Kit Daniels and Kurt Nimmo to go out today and report on different Cinco de Mayo events. And my issue is, if there was a Mayflower Day, let's say hypothetically, and only white people were allowed at it, and if they called it the race, if there was a Mayflower Day called the race in English, I would send my crew out right now. If the Ku Klux Klan ever comes to Austin, Texas, we've done this literally more than 15 times. I don't know, it's more than 15. But next time the Klan comes, we will send our reporters out to show what they're doing, and to show they have the First Amendment right to do what they do, but that they are just a total joke. And then we'll also show their leaders and point out that usually they're feds meant to create racial division. Same thing. I want my reporters to go out to Cinco de Mayo and ask people about, what do you think of Mecha and La Raza? Mecha says, in their creed in Spanish, that it is for the supremacy of the God race. And it translates to the holy God race of Chicanos. Look it up. Now, La Raza, their creed is, for those in the race, everything. For those outside the race, nothing. That is the official, sponsored by the Fortune 500, Miller Beer, Ford, GM, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. For those in the race, everything. For those outside the race, nothing. I'm going to say that again. For those in the race, everything. For those outside the race, nothing. So I want Sergeant Biggs, Staff Sergeant Biggs, and I want Jakari Jackson, and I want whoever's not hosting the news tonight. I want everybody to go out and say, what do you think of the official La Raza? That's the biggest Hispanic group in the country next to LULAC, and LULAC's pretty much the same. And say, why does the system want to make Hispanics totally racial and anti-black or white? And just call it out and say, do you know the Ford Foundation? I mean, I've done this myself probably 10 times over the years. The Ford Foundation for 50 years has been funding this liberation theology so that Americans don't basically merge together under an American culture, a Bill of Rights, Constitution, Declaration of Independence. We've now gotten to the point where the American flag is so offensive in Phoenix and so offensive in San Francisco and so offensive in Garland, Texas, that illegals have gone and pulled down American flags from gas stations and from post offices and from federal buildings, and no one stops them. The American flag is so offensive. And look, I know the American flag has been made to symbolize global empire and corruption, but I mean, it can also symbolize Second Amendment, private property rights, the good things about it that made America great. America's never been perfect, but compared to other countries, folks, go visit them. A lot less freedom. Now, we've become unfree on all the major economic, religious, you name it, indexes. We used to be number one. We're way down the list. Number 20, 30, you name it, 40, 60, education, you name it. Highest in cancer, highest in obesity, highest in low IQs. We've reversed our position as number one in the 1950s and 40s and 30s and before that. Americans really were exceptional. We really were exceptionally evil and exceptionally good. We were very exceptional people. I don't care what color you were. We came through adversity. This was a swashbuckling, freebooting, wild nation. And when humans are faced adversity, that makes men. Prosperity makes monsters. Our prosperity, though, made us monsters. So now we're going into a decadent cycle. And we're going to come back and play the clips of the, and again, most Hispanics I know are not anti-America, anti-white, anti-black. This is something being force-fed by the prostitute collaborative media with the globalist This is something being sold because they want us all divided, or the globalists cannot get what they want through. Wells Fargo, again, orders American flags removed from inside their branches. That's mainstream news, folks. I mean, this is the total overwrite where they say American culture is not allowed because vestigially what it stands for, but every other thing, every other culture can, and then it's not even Hispanic culture. Hispanic culture is pro-family, pro-right to self-defense, pro-male role models. It's the opposite of the fake globalist liberal culture that's not even liberal that they're selling. I mean, why would anyone want to adopt the New World Order culture? Well, they just say, MTV says what black culture is. All these Hispanic channels say what it is to be Hispanic. And they're telling you, you have no right to be an American. You have no right. It's criminal. Imagine living in a country where they teach 2 + 2 = 5 and where public school children as young as 10 are taken and given abortions in many states without parental consent and given inoculations without parental consent, totally illegal. Imagine living in a country where they lie to you every year in August and tell you it's the law that your kids have got to take all the shots when there is no law. Imagine living in a country where our government with NATO overthrows an elected government, installs it, and Obama came out last Friday and called it a duly elected government. In fact, will you guys find that clip? It was over the weekend. I forgot about it. I saw the clip in Paul Watson's report. Duly elected. Regardless, let's say you hate Russians, hate Putin, you believe they're the devil, the Antichrist. That government in Ukraine is not elected. That's the level of crazy town. Obama calls coup government in Kiev duly elected. We have the 23-second clip right there. I mean, this is the insanity of this, where all over the country, gangs basically beat up kids that wear American flags. And if you follow what happened in San Francisco and other areas, it was Hispanic kids that wanted to have the American flag. By the way, Hispanics in almost every state under the age of about 10, last time I saw the numbers, are the majority. Why don't you just want to inherit the Second Amendment and private property? Well, you do. Actually, most Hispanics do. So they wear the American flag, and then the folks that have got the Mexico tattoos all over them and the Mexican license plates and the Mexican stickers everywhere, they're very nationalistic, and it's like a football team. And they're like, listen, you're not going to wear that American flag. So it becomes almost a gang issue that if you want to identify as an American... See, I used to really get annoyed by the American flag because I knew what it really symbolized, but I knew now it symbolized kind of fascism. But then I understood, instead of not having the American flag, I'm going to take the American flag back. I'm going to use it to promote the ideas of liberty that it was originally formed for and never truly achieved, but at least tried, better than any other country it has, other than, say, Switzerland. And so we're retaking the American flag. We're using the American flag for what it was meant to be used for. But if we will allow the globalists and the Ford Foundation and the Carnegie Endowment and the different globalist think tanks, they're not left-wing, they call themselves left-wing, that's cover, these fascist think tanks, if we'll let them ban the Bible, ban the American flag, but judges say, I don't want to hear about the Constitution in my courtroom, this is a revolution against our rights. Hey, I'm going to tell you something right now. If Mexico had a better Constitution and Bill of Rights, if Mexico had better private property rules, if Mexico was a freer country, I would live in Mexico. It's not that I don't want brown people around me. It's that I don't want people from a collapsed third world country coming here, brainwashed that America belongs to them and they deserve welfare, and for their race everything, those outside the race nothing. If this racism catches on, they've done studies where it's 11-to-1 pro-socialist rhetoric on Spanish television and print media here in the U.S. I mean, it's anti-gun, it's anti-family, it's anti-father. It's anti-Hispanic culture that is Spanish culture. It is absolutely to destroy Hispanics and everybody else along with them. just like the Gardasil shots. In fact, I want one of my reporters to go out with the article that all girls 11 years old in Mexico are to be forced. They actually have a tyrannical law in Mexico, not here. They lie and say it's the law here. Rick Perry did. In Mexico, they have a law in place for 3 years to give every girl in Mexico a Gardasil shot. I want maybe Jakari Jackson to ask that question, or Don Salazar. Hey, why doesn't Mecha, those that say, and La Raza, for those inside the race, everything, for those outside the race, nothing, why don't they, this is very important, why don't they lobby against giving the Gardasil shot, which sterilizes and destroys the ovaries and causes autoimmune disorders? And we knew 8 years ago when it got approved, that was what it was being approved for. It had to have governmental involvement for waivers just to get approved because it was so deadly. I mean, I thought you're for your race because I'm in the human race. That's who I'm for. That's why I don't want you sterilized. But see, the folks telling you about race all day, they're not going to tell you that you're being aborted, you're being sterilized. See, so I want to ask those questions. See, for those inside the race, everything. For those outside the race, nothing. But see, I see it as the human race, not as the Hispanic race.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run.
Why are the so-called liberals so racist?
Jones and the GCN
Why did they get away
Network
with pushing the racism like Al Sharpton? Yeah, I guarantee you can go find the illegals and people making threats. I mean, I can go down to the Cinco de Mayo parade, and I've done this, and we have video of it, and it became national news, and it's in my film Battle for the Republic, an extra, a short film I made. It's on the Film Endgame DVD, where we show the shirts that say the plan of San Diego, that is to kill all gringos or all whites, according to skin color, not even surname, above the age of 16. The German government actually financed that during World War I, and the attacks were launched in South Texas. You can look that up for yourself. Actually, the attacks were launched in the Big Bend area and other areas on the Texas border. And you're like, but the Germans are white. Well, the Germans actually ran Mexico for a while, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and they sent over one of their princes to run it and show there's an exception for Germans. The railroads in Mexico got built by Germans. The beer, that's Dos Equis was a German brewer that came there and made it. That's why it's German beer, basically, German lager. Tastes pretty good, too. But the whole point is that there's a major German influence in Mexico that is exempted from all of the kill the white people stuff. That's why you'll see a lot of people from Mexico with German first names like Adolf or Alois or things like that. See, I happen to know about the cultures. I've studied it. And again, I'm sitting here watching all over the country. This is just some small town where you can't wear an American flag because people think it's so offensive. So Mark Dice went out and, frequent contributor to Infowars.com, Mark Dice, media critic, went out and asked Obama supporters, is not liking Mexican food racist? And I've told the story probably 20 times since last year when I was at Barton Springs and saw 2 Hispanics and a white guy who were obviously stoned out of their minds. And you can tell when somebody's been smoking a bunch of weed, laughing and giggling and wrestling around in the water. And I'm laying on the grass like 15 feet away. And they're like, man, I want some Chinese food. Let's go up with that. And they go, and the one Hispanic and white guy to the other Hispanic goes, shh, that's racist. So for the general public, just talking is now racist. Knowledge is racist. Having an opinion is racist. Discriminating and saying, I don't like the TSA grabbing my testicles, that's a discrimination. Discriminating that you like this brand of hot dog better than this other brand. Now all forms of discrimination or being discerning is now bad. You do what the media says. As it changes day to day, you'll be politically correct. You'll be safe. But if you do anything, including knowing how to read a book, it's like Idiocracy. Look, this guy can read. Aha, we can't trust him. It's weird to be informed. It's bad to be informed. And this is the plan. Bring in predominantly Latin American population that has a beef with our government that's done a lot of bad stuff in Latin America. Blame that on the American people. Make every source of evil be Anglo in nature. The Anglos then respond by being guilty and self-loathing and self-hating and politically doing whatever they're told. Turn the guns in, let the state run your kids, don't wear American flags. That's all offensive. Wells Fargo has announced taking down American flags. It's offensive to their supporters, to their patrons. The big banks announced years ago, we've shown the articles here, Bloomberg and others reported it, Wall Street Journal, that illegals get to have bank accounts with no ID or a consular matricula that you can get out of a Cracker Jack box. The consular matricula, the leader of the Republican Senate years ago that I had on from Colorado, was able to get 5 of them in one day himself. He doesn't even have a Spanish surname. So a citizen, if you're Hispanic, black, white, or Asian, or mixed as they call it, a human being, you go into the Bank of America or Wells Fargo, you got to show multiple forms. You're treated like a criminal. Your kids go to public schools, they got to have clear backpacks because, you know, you might have a weapon. You're all learning how to be prisoners. But if you're an illegal, there's all these things done to incentivize you coming here to do what? Drive down wages. You're given corporate concessions so that you will work for less. Basically, it's just like Walmart encourages their employees to have pay so low they duly qualify to go on welfare. And Obama said last year, he said, hey, go on Obamacare, get your hours cut from 40 down to 30, go get on welfare. You will then be eligible for welfare. And now businesses, big corporations, it's in the news, tell their people, go get on welfare. This is your supplemental income. This is the domestication. So China is meant to deindustrialize our country with wages and conditions that we can't compete with. Mexico brings in a population that we can't compete with because of the government kickbacks, the government systems, and we can't compete because our power plants are being shut down. Now, there it is, BizPac Review. Media advises people to work less to get Obamacare subsidy. In the San Francisco Chronicle, people whose 2014 income will be a little too high to get subsidized health insurance from covered California next year, start thinking about ways to lower it to increase their odds of getting the valuable tax subsidy. See? And soon, folks, people aren't going to know how to take care of themselves. It's game over very, very soon. That's why the government's setting up currency controls, domestic controls where you can't get out of the country with your money even after tax, or where they can claw it back out of Luxembourg, the Bahamas, or Switzerland. Not money you took that didn't have taxes on it. The money you paid tax on, they're saying we own all that money. New article just went up on Infowars.com. Patriot Group protests Cinco de Mayo ban on American flag T-shirts. First Amendment organization characterized as racist. That's right, folks. Showing up, black people, Hispanic, white, you name it, with American flags is racist, according to NBC. That just broke. And I want my reporters to go, and I told them, go to the store, buy an American flag. I know we've got some around here anyways. Take it down and ask people. Maybe buy a bunch of little ones at the 5 and dime store or wherever. Go out and ask people, is this racist? Do you want one? See if people will refuse them. At the Cinco de Mayo parade coming up, what is it, 4 or 5 o'clock? Will you guys look up what time the Cinco de Mayo parade is today? And again, folks, I'd like to have Cinco de Mayo be a holiday. I'd like to feel like I was welcome at a lot of these things. And I'm not saying there aren't some of these Cinco de Mayo events that you're welcome at, but let me tell you, it's a racial, cultural event that is now decidedly not about overthrowing Spain or Mexico getting independence. It's now about hating gringos. And let's just be honest about that and get it out on the table. Because it's not racist for me to point out that that's going on. We're grabbing that video right now that just went live at Infowars.com that we just tweeted at Real Alex Jones. So here is Mark Dice's report. I want to play this from the start, but there's a juicy part where people say it's racist that Joe Biden doesn't like Mexican food. Now, I'll tell you what it is that Joe Biden doesn't like Mexican food. There's nothing wrong with him. He's a Yankee. And folks up north didn't grow up around a lot of spices, so it tastes bad to him. And I love Yankees. Great people. I love people from California, too, as long as they don't want my guns. I love people from Mexico, as long as you don't want to force inoculate me and make me my kids take Gardasil shots so they get sterilized. As long as you don't want me to drink fluoride. Listen, I want you to have guns. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, who you are. I want you to have guns and private property and raise your family and be free and be red-blooded and be manly and be feminine and all the traditional role models that are under attack scientifically. We're being overwritten with this false culture. But if you don't like me because I'm white, I have no guilt, and I'm not going to kiss your butt, and it's not some weird economic advantage. I'm not in a gang where I want to be part of the white gang, or I want to be part of the country club gang, or I want to be, I mean, imagine wanting to be with the government gang because they give you tax exemptions and some handouts, and the government tells you you're Hispanic, you are the God race, you are that's Mecha. If you quote it from Spanish, it's basically the divine God race. We have former Mayor Gus Garcia somewhere around here actually doing a city proclamation that Hispanics are the supreme race. You think I'm joking? I think it's on YouTube. And again, I don't even get into the subject till I see stuff like this. And then you got Mecha, but then you got La Raza, for those in the race, everything, for those outside the race, nothing. This is outrageous. So here's Mark Dice's report. It's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com.
Support Obama's decision to have Boehner step down or maybe be punished for making racist comments about not eating Mexican food on Cinco de Mayo?
I think that he should take a stand, and he should take it swiftly. So as soon as
just get Boehner out, get that racist SOB out of there.
Just get the person out, and then make an example of it, and then that way he's at least taking a step towards eliminating those comments in the future from people that may feel like they want to say something like that.
The full video is up on Infowars.com, and I usually watch these clips beforehand. I hadn't watched the clip, so I was told it was Biden that had said that, but it was Boehner. I remember hearing something about that from Biden. Maybe he responded to it. The point is, obviously, most people I know from up north come down here, and they say, I'll eat anywhere, just not Mexican food. In fact, we had a black guy from up north down here who was a big liberal, and he didn't want to eat Mexican food. And it's because people from up north are scared of hot things. It has nothing to do with the fact that Mexicans are the ones cooking it. In fact, pretty much all I eat is Mexican food. That's where I got my beautiful figure. Does that mean I'm racist? Is all I want is Mexican food? And I think the senoritas are very pretty. I mean, again, it's about being obsessed about, do you not like Mexican food? Well, meanwhile, the banks are tax exempt and running narcotics publicly and laundering the money and owning the aircraft, Bloomberg AP. All this is going on, and we've got people with straight faces going, yeah, get the Speaker of the House out because he doesn't like that. I mean, literally, I've now noticed when you're around trendies, they're so dumbed down that if you just say, hey, let's go get Mexican food, they think the word Mexican, people will look at you. Chinese, Mexican, white, everyone's looking for the fabled boogeyman because these are uncomfortable people brought up in front of television that don't have social skills, black, white, I don't care what color they are. While everything's being robbed, where a whole world's being screwed over by tyrants, we are now totally obsessed with all this race garbage. Just like the globalists can play Catholic off against Orthodox in Ukraine, the globalists will look for a difference, and they will use that difference as a way to come in and screw everybody. Who loses, the Russian Ukrainians or the Western Ukrainians from this crisis? They all lose. Who gains? NATO. George Soros and the billions in bailout money. The globalist. And Putin will win, his approval ratings going up. The governments all get power out of the crisis. Who loses? The people. Who gains out of real racism being stirred up in the name of fighting it? The government that'll play the part of the referee. And I know you know this, but I want to ask a question for first-time callers twofold. Where do you see the world going in the next year to two? What is your futurist perspective for the world, the economy, you name it? A, and B, is there any way to beat the dumbing down of race division that they push in the name of fighting racism? I mean, that's all they do in school, in churches, in the media is race, 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 and attack men. They attack heterosexuality because the whole society's being overwritten. That doesn't mean I dislike gay people. It's not on my radar screen, but they're force-feeding it as an overwrite of traditional role models, of traditional values to make us be unnatural, to change the way we operate. This is being done scientifically. 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231, and I may even open up our phone system straight ahead. Imagine if somebody got in a time machine, say in 1965, teleported forward to 2014, where the president openly ships guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment, killing thousands of people, but none of the race groups like Mecha or La Raza say a word because they're openly run by the CIA and the Ford Foundation. This is divide and conquer. Imagine, I keep repeating this, a world where 2 + 2 = 5 is taught to children. That's directly from 1984. Imagine someone coming back from the 1960s that had its own evils then, but that have been replaced with even more insidious, twisted, mind-bending evils. The old evils you could face and they were open, and people recognized them. Now it's all hidden and couched and spin and propaganda and brainwashing. Coming up the next hour, we'll play that clip. Patriot group protests Cinco de Mayo, ban on American flags, T-shirts called racist. That is so bombshell up on Infowars.com. In fact, the headline should be Patriot group protest. Group protesting American flag ban called racist. Or having American flags called racist. I mean, it's again, the reality is so sensational that I can't even come up with words to describe how insane that is. Just like the other video. How dare people want to go out with American flags since the illegals say you shouldn't have them? Isn't that racist? It's so violent. We don't know who said there might be violence, but we're sure it's an evil white person. 9 times out of 10, I say 9 times out of 10, I can't think of a case where a Jewish center has swastikas painted on it where it wasn't somebody that works there doing it. I can't think of a case where a black church got burned down that it wasn't the church members doing it. I can't think of a case where a black member of a sorority didn't scratch the swastika on their own face. Now, I can think of real cases where crazy white supremacists go and shoot up Jewish centers, and then in every case, Buford Furrow and the latest one, turns out they're FBI informants. The last 2 Jewish centers, the one out in California, and then the one that just happened a few weeks ago, what was it, in Missouri? Or was it Kansas? The last 2 times, look it up, they were FBI informants. So I don't know what's going on, folks. Yeah, alleged Kansas Jewish gunman charged with murder. And again, I'm not saying I even know what happened. I don't. I'm just wondering, why is the FBI always involved? The Pentagon was involved in the Buford Furrow thing, too. Remember covering that. There's just a lot of weirdness going on here. I want to open the phones up. As you know, we start the next hour. I'm going to start going to your calls. We've got the latest on the economy. We've got the latest on the CDC, confirms first case of MERS virus in America, and a lot more. Briefly, please don't forget that this broadcast is listener-supported via our sponsors. And one of them is Stansberry and Associates Investment Research. Great analysis. They're putting on an event with T. Boone Pickens, and a bunch of other people. I'm one of the key speakers, the 31st, the last Saturday of this month. All-day event in Dallas. You can go to Infowars.com and follow the banners to get there. It says sold out on there now. And I think they can expand the ballroom, I'm told, so I think you may be able to get the tickets. It says early bird tickets for SNA Natural Resources Conference are sold out. You could still book a seat for almost 25% off. Yeah, so they're expanding it. Once I plugged it, it sold out. But it's one of those ballrooms. They can expand the next tier. So get your tickets right now at Infowars.com for that. Are the end times upon us? Author says unrestrained immorality mirrors pandemic godlessness seen in the Bible. That's the story up at DrudgeReport.com on the right-hand side, as it was in the days of Noah. And that's an important question, ladies and gentlemen. I want to ask you that. Where is this society going? Where is this culture going? We're going to be going to your phone calls right now. Then I'm going to get into an article up on Infowars.com titled Ron Paul, Common Core is Really the Last Straw. And it is a big article. It is a detailed article, and it's very hardcore, the things that Ron Paul has to say, how there's a conspiracy to dumb down our children, how it's a criminal takeover, and how Common Core really is the last straw, and now he's striking back with his homeschool curriculum that I should add we have a link to in the story with an affiliate program we're doing with Ron Paul that helps fund our operation. And it's free. The curriculum's free through the certain grades, the first grades, and then you pay for the later curriculum if you choose. So links to that free curriculum are at Infowars.com in this article. We were given the link to the free curriculum so that we could promote this for folks. And you can see the curriculum up at the top. It's not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, though that's the core of it. But liberty versus coercion in Western history, number one, how to defend the freedom philosophy, what it takes for success in college, how to start a home business. That's the type of thing that they're teaching people in this. Real stuff that kids need, real Americana, that the system is desperate your children not learn. They want them to go take Common Core that's so confusing they lose the desire to learn and never get it. Instead of making learning exciting like you're supposed to in Western civilization, they make it as boring as they can to literally sabotage the culture, and that's on record. So you can go to Infowars.com. In that article, Ron Paul, Common Core is Really the Last Straw, where Dr. Paul breaks it all down. It's an exclusive to Infowars.com. And by the way, we're so neurotic here about not airing stuff if people don't know it was taped that I need to reach out to Ron Paul. It's all just in the communication of the great reporters. You get an interview with somebody, you say, we're doing a print interview, but we also want to record it to put on the radio. And then that wasn't relayed, so now I'm not letting the audio be heard until I can ask Ron Paul if he wants it to air. And you're like, well, why does it matter? You taped it. Well, that wasn't clear. To default, you just say, hey, want to do a radio and print interview with you. And then that's what you do. But you don't, we're going to do a print. And then when it gets up to, oh, by the way, we're going to tape this. And then Ron Paul's like, But the point is, it's a very powerful interview. I've heard it. And so we'll see about getting that out. But it's just frustrating to have something and then not be able to put it out. But hell, I can call Ron Paul up at home, but I'm not going to do it and ask him. It's just that it's constant training around here, which is good. Just the defaults of the way the media works, the rules in the media, how it unfolds. But it's a good article by Kit Daniels. It's an excellent article. And it's up on InfoWarsStore.com as well. You can link through and find the links to the Ron Paul curriculum. But the link to find the free areas of the curriculum is up at Infowars.com. In the article, Ron Paul, Common Core is Really the Last Straw. We're going to go to break. We're going to come back and go directly to Aaron, John, Lewis, James, Christian, and others about what do you see the future of the world being? Just a general question. And then also, how insane is political correctness that La Raza can mean the race? And on Cinco de Mayo, it's people waving Mexican flags, and folks get very upset of an American flags. I mean, Wells Fargo, it's in the news today, is taking their flags down. So should we lower all American flags and burn them and urinate on them to show we're not racist? Should we wipe our butts with the American flag to prove we're not bad? All right, we're going to go directly to your phone calls on the question I've posed to the listeners when I gave the number out at the end of the last hour. What do you think is going to happen in the future? What's your gut level feeling? All we know is how to obsess over race, obsess over differences in the name of fighting racism. I mean, now we've got white players saying, Sterling didn't want to pay me because I was white. Obviously, Sterling hated everybody, a total elitist. That's what I've been saying the whole time. Just a total out-of-control moron. But what are we doing as a culture obsessing over what one old rich man said while we're all being cheated by the globalist and while the IRS is directed to not go after rich people but to target blue-collar folks they know are scared and can't fight back? Los Angeles Clippers guard J.J. Riddick says that owner Donald Sterling was hesitant to sign him last summer because he's white. Speaking to USA Today, Riddick went into detail about how his 4-year, $27 million sign and trade deal almost fell apart despite being initially agreed upon. I've been told both ways. One, that he didn't want to pay me because I was white, and he didn't want to pay me because I was a bench player. I mean, who cares, man? Who cares what one old racist guy is doing? Secretly record it. Oh, but it's horrible what he said. It's horrible to inject black people with syphilis. Nobody cares about that. The same government that did all of that, the same globalists, the same criminal Hydra group, Spectre, whatever you want to call it, the same criminal group in our government and in other major governments, the globalists, they write books how they run everything, literally is reducing world population forcibly, targeting the smartest people, trying to create a hellish system, and using entertainment to distract everyone. And now people don't care about their economic rights. They don't care about their Bill of Rights. They don't care about their real rights. They care about obsessing about race all day, and I'm sick of it. Actually, most people in polls are sick of it, too. But the media just keeps force-feeding it. But that's why Obama, at the correspondence dinner over the weekend, had to make the joke that, wow, MSNBC is here tonight. This is the biggest audience, they've had in a while. I mean, they know that they have 500,000 viewers on their top show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not delivered to work in a limo. I'm not on a power trip. Maybe I should be on one because people pay attention to that. MSNBC, their biggest show, doesn't have a third of the listeners of this radio show. That's very conservative. We get tens of millions of YouTube views a week conservatively. That's just YouTube. And then we're on thousands of other platforms. Boxy, Roku, and we're in the top 5 to top 10, usually number 1, on all the online TV services that are now in smart TVs. Internet hooked up televisions. That's why they're coming in wanting to censor the internet now. That's why they want to get rid of the old internet and force you onto their new internet, too, that the FCC controls with fairness doctrine, because they cannot compete. All we've got to do is realize we are the dominant group now, libertarian ideas, and start acting like it. Now, that's when you talk about news, we have the big audiences. Where we're being beaten is entertainment. You've got people that are informed, and this broadcast is extremely popular and is reaching the world. When you talk about the average person out there, they only watch sports and entertainment, and they don't even know what planet they're on. And they could care less who Rand Paul is, or who Alex Jones is, or who Ron Paul is, or who Matt Drudge is, or who Joseph Farah is. They don't know anything about it. And that's why I've told my crew and myself this. We've got to start culture jamming and going to movie premieres. We've got to start trying to get big celebrities on. We've got to start covering entertainment and then putting our news into it as a way to get the general public. Upwards of 80% that don't even know the New World Order exists. They're the ones, the casual viewer is who MSNBC is targeting. The casual viewer who may watch TV once a month and hears Alex Jones is deeply racist and was behind the Boston bombing. For anyone informed, that's like saying Alex Jones is from Mars and has green skin and drinks blood. It's ridiculous. But to people that are casual viewers of just headlines, that's why P.T. Barnum said, just spell my name right. Because for the general public, all they care about is that your name is out there. Ed Schultz has come out and said, we have a clip of that not raising minimum wage is racist. Yeah, and not passing Obamacare is racist as well, right? By cutting working class folks' time from 40 to below 30 hours, that's very racist if you don't. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I want to play Jakari Jackson's report on the DOJ so we don't forget that they're targeting gun shops and gun dealers and gun manufacturers in a racketeering operation. Then I'm going right to your calls, Aaron, John, Lewis, James, Christian, and others. But here is Jakari Jackson's report from last Friday's InfoWars Nightly News. You miss every night 30 minutes of reporting like this. Hardcore with Jakari Jackson, Leanne McAdoo, Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, Darren McBreen, David Knight, and all the rest of the great crew doing a fabulous job. Here's Jakari's report.
There is often talk that only military and police should have guns, that if there is an incident, a man in uniform will swoop in and save you. And there are plenty of good people in those positions. But we can't ignore the blatant abuses of power that do occur, such as an off-duty NYPD member who got drunk and shot a man 6 times. To anyone who'd point out that the man was off the clock at the time of the shooting, I'd be quick to point out that he shot a man 6 times. On the other side of the country, a man fleeing from police was shot in the back, fell down a staircase, and died. Reports are that the man had previously been menacing with a pair of scissors, but was unarmed when he was killed from behind. Moving now to Texas, a sheriff responding to a burglary killed the dog of the victim who called him. Apparently, pepper spray wasn't a good enough option to keep the dog at bay. And earlier this year, Albuquerque police killed a homeless man for the heinous crime of camping.
Good. Get on the ground! Get on the ground now! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Don't make noise! Put your hands out to your side and drop the knife! Hands out to your side! Beanbag! Beanbag! Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Still got the knife? Negative.
Let's contrast that with responsible citizens handling firearms.
While they're reversing, the lady's holding onto her purse still, chasing him all the way to the middle.
That's when a perfect stranger intervenes. You can see him there in the PT Cruiser at the top of the screen.
And that Good Samaritan came out and drew his weapon and scared them. And then that's when he pulled him out the car.
Someone snapped this picture of the man holding the 2 suspects at bay. A few minutes later, police arrived.
She heard the suspect say this.
He said that crazy has a gun, and that's when I was finally down on the sidewalk and I shot it into the dirt, into the grass area, and to let him know, you know, I've got a gun and I know how to use it.
With all of this in mind, the Department of Justice is continuing their attack on the Second Amendment by limiting banking options for gun stores. This in addition to the DOJ running guns into the hands of Mexican drug cartels with Operation Fast and Furious. So to the Good Samaritans and constitutional police alike, be aware that if the DOJ continues these actions virtually unchecked, you may find your right to bear arms infringed in a way that you wouldn't expect. You can find more reports at Infowars.com.
One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
So that's what they're doing. Everything they do is social engineering. When they say your kids belong to them and 2 + 2 = 5, I keep harping on that. Because in 1984, written by an actual MI6, before that OSS propagandist, George Orwell admitted that he put a lot of classified stuff before he died, and he died 1 year after the book came out in 1948, he died in 1949. George Orwell said that he put a lot of classified things in the book that he wouldn't have been able to put out because he worked in propaganda. The character of Winston Smith is Eric Blair, a.k.a. George Orwell, his pen name. And you have to understand that the ability to say 2 + 2 = 4 is freedom. And they know that. So we must battle them. And the fact that they say it's a conspiracy theory, literally, that you're allowed to have free will and say 2 + 2 = 4. You have to say whatever they want you to say and not be able to make any judgments. That is racism. Having any opinion. I like chocolate ice cream over vanilla. I'm racist. Well, how is it racist? Doesn't matter. You're racist. This is what they replace our liberty with, and our reality is being a bunch of obsessed, neurotic twits, while all of our freedom's being destroyed, while the globalists set up a total tyranny and a global kill grid. On Cinco de Mayo, you better not wear an American flag. Well, I'm sending my reporters out, the ones that want to do it, with American flags like Superman running around. We're gonna see what happens and show the mind control of how this country's being captured by the globalists. We're going to be right back with Aaron. We're going right to you. Aaron, Christian, John, Lewis, and James. And when you hear a caller hang up, that's your time to call in. But it is the Twilight Zone. It's now a conspiracy theory to say 2 + 2 = 4. We are back live on this Monday worldwide transmission. And we're going to your phone calls right now. Where do you see the future of this world going, A? And then B, is there any way to defeat the mindless race promotion by the Democratic Party? And the same thing's done by the socialists in Europe. This is how they control people. They bring in outside groups. The government then represents the outside groups as their client, creating more division. And then attaching to the outside group a political agenda of more control. And that if that group goes along with that, they will continue to get the goodies. How do you stop 2 wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner? How do you stop this equation? Aaron in Montana, thanks for holding her on the air.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm fine. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I think the best way or the future would be to re-engineer your life, every individual person, to basically start from the beginning of, you know, what do we need, and then stop using all the stuff that destroys our bodies and move accordingly in that direction.
I think that's it. You fundamentally change the way you live your life. Anything the globalists are pushing, you're against it. And separately, what does your gut tell you about the future of humanity?
Oh, I'm a combat vet. I've, you know, seen some stuff, and I just have a really bad feeling on how things are kind of going right now. I see a buildup of force. I think that some bad stuff might come down the pipeline. I hope not. I hope that we can head it off by getting involved in our local communities. I mean, that's probably the only way that we're going to be able to do anything, is by people getting involved. I mean, out here we got our Missoula mayor is involved with the Mayors Against Illegal Guns. He's part of Michael Bloomberg's high-speed, low-drag system of the illegal gun program, the MIAC or whatever.
Well, your call's excellent. I appreciate the points you made. We're going to go to the next person, but I just want to say this. I want to say it very calmly so it doesn't get lost in the rest of my babble. We see the military force, the paramilitary force being built against us. We see the manuals, the memos. It is for the American people. This system is being built to destroy all basic freedoms and prosperity to make us dependent. And the globalists will use the crises they've helped exacerbate or that they've created and then pose as saviors and use that to get even more power. That's the thing. People now see all this stuff unfolding. They go, well, you know, we're in a bad situation. They have to do that. They engineered it on record. Things get worse under the New World Order. They are the fount or the source of most of the problems. And a lot of top professors are saying that, and economists, that the governing class lives off crisis and lives off destabilization because they don't make anything. They don't lead by being superior. They lead by cheating and playing games and rigging things. They've even got senators admitting this now. And they're going to keep cheating till we're all bankrupt, folks. They go or we go. It's us or them. John in Ohio, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Long-time listener.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah. I would say I think it's through our kids. My kids come home from school all the time with the rhetoric that they teach them in school about race and homosexuality and stuff like that. Heck, you can't even get in a fight in the school to defend yourself today without both kids being suspended.
No, I have seen it at swim team where a boy beats up one of my daughters who's 2 years older, and if the daughter fights back, she gets in trouble. And it's not the swim team's even bad. They're following the, quote, rules. Fighting back is the ultimate sin. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree, and it drives me crazy. So I try to teach my kids, at home to counteract all the crap they hear in the school system.
It's amazing how they also demonize parents in the school system now. And I feel sorry. Folks are working too hard. They got to put your kids in public school most of the time because people pay property tax, or they pay it through their rent, the owner, so they jack up your rent because of property tax. So many people go, I don't care about property tax, I don't pay it. Everyone pays property tax, folks. You pay it through the rent cost. And they force us through that tax to be so poor, we have to put them in their system. It's a diabolical plan. Anything else, John?
No, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing, and we all appreciate you out here.
Oh, no, don't thank me, brother, please. We're all in this together. We're just trying to bail water, trying to get to shore. Lewis, James, Marcos, and everybody else, your calls are straight ahead. First-time callers, 800-259-9231. I'm going to take more calls. Then I got economic news, police state news, Ron Paul news. First off, there's an article up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Ron Paul, Common Core is really the last straw. And it's a long, detailed, hardcore article from a sit-down interview that Kit Daniels did. And there's also HD photos of Ron Paul when he came to town and more up on Infowars.com. And you may know about Common Core in public school. Your friends and your family probably don't. This is a great article to send out on your Twitter, to send out on your Facebook, to get out to everybody you know. It is absolutely essential that you realize that just because you know this stuff, or just because I know this stuff, doesn't mean our neighbors do. At church and across the board, people are ready to hear the truth now. And Ron Paul calls government education a deliberate plan to create dumbed-down, obedient population. And he talks about how the real revolution is in academics. And when you sign up, and we've got links to the free sign-up page, when you sign up for the free curriculum, it goes to the first grades. And then later when you get into high school, you can pay for the free market stuff that Ron Paul teaches. Liberty versus coercion in Western history, how to defend the freedom philosophy, what it takes for success in college, how to start a home business, from Dr. Ron Paul, who put himself through college and all the rest of it. And from a guy who volunteered 3 days a week to give free health care at hospitals. That's the kind of stuff Ron Paul did. That's what doctors used to do. My dad's grandfather was a doctor and did about half of his health care free. And that's what was taught, was that you went and gave health care for free. Poor people just didn't pay. And then if you needed like a prosthesis or something special, the local churches collected the money. Well, no, the local churches are busy being glitterbugs right now, trying to build a bigger facility and to tell you to worship government. They're too busy, greasing their skids to hell to do that. But you can follow through the link on Infowars.com in that article to find that. And yes, we're also an affiliate of it if you sign up for the full course for the higher grades. And that helps fund Infowars.com. So we're partners with former Congressman Ron Paul on that front. And a lot of other little stuff we're working on, but I'm too busy to, quite frankly, do it. But Ron Paul is definitely hitting on all cylinders, ladies and gentlemen. And they have a 100% money-back guarantee if you buy the full curriculum. But like I said, they got a bunch of free stuff for the lower grades. They've got everything right there on the site. And they've also got an affiliate program that when you become an affiliate, you can also basically pay for the curriculum by becoming an affiliate. But this is how we fund the revolution. We don't take the money at gunpoint like MSNBC with stimulus money or NPR, as I say ad nauseum, who gets $400, $500 million a year. It varies. Or George Soros that gets banker bailout money and then gives that money to programs to try to overthrow your First Amendment, Second Amendment. We don't lobby for higher taxes like Warren Buffett, who's the biggest recipient of banker bailout money in his company and privately. We don't take any taxpayer money. We are funded by you going to InfoWarsStore.com and buying the Mola and Labe men and women's T-shirts. We are funded by you going to InfoWarsLife.com and getting the products, the Silver Bullet, the Nation Iodine that's discounted right now. That sale ends Friday. The Super Male Vitality that you've heard the rave reviews of. This is how we're funding our operation. And we bring you the very best products. So it's a free will thing. You say you want to be free, spread the word about Infowars.com. You're listening to us on an AM or FM station, tell people listening to those AM and FM stations to tune in to the broadcast today. Tell people to buy the products. Give the products as gifts. Give the magazine that we sell at cost. You can buy in groups of 10 up to 100 in bulk to friends and family to wake them up. Freedom is not free. Again, we are becoming more and more popular, the liberty movement, not just this show. We have the initiative now. That's why they're trying to censor us. Now is the time to double down, ladies and gentlemen. You can also call toll-free to get the Pure Pro G2 systems, the best gravity-fed filter out there. You can go to the website, InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. Or again, as I said, prisonplanet.tv memberships to see the nightly news, the commercial-free audio, video, podcast, all my films, $5.95 a month. 11 people can simultaneously use each membership. It's just to pay for the operation. Not that it's bad that we want to have wealth to expand and be strong in the face of the enemy, but we really do sell the magazine at cost. Prisonplanet.tv is operating at cost. We are trying to really give the globalists a run for their money. And the globalists are losing the info war. So help fund the very tip of the spear. I want to thank you all for being supportive. Okay, because you are the info war. You are the broadcast. You're everything. We couldn't do this without you. That's why it's kind of a sick joke when you call up thanking me. Listen, there's no future if we don't beat the New World Order. I'm doing this out of self-preservation. You're doing this out of self-preservation. It's not like something extra we do. Oh, thank you, Alex, for standing up for us. I'm so deep into this, I can't get out of it or I'm dead. There's no going back for me. I wouldn't go back, but you get destroyed turning around. I'm going with it. I'm owning it. I'm all in. I'm free. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid of anything they do to me. I love it. I close my eyes at night and I'm calm. I'm at peace. Thank God for that peace. It's not courage, folks. It's peace. The only peace I don't have is that I want to do more. I want to be better. I want to be more effective. I burn with a desire to take on the enemy. And it's nothing special, folks. When you realize how evil the globalists are and that you're fighting for your life, do not thank me for fighting for my life. I am fighting for my life. Whether you don't know it yet or not, the globalists are pure evil. We are fighting for our lives, ladies and gentlemen. And I know the system is all-encompassing and is tied into every level of society and is overwhelming. But just knowing it's there, admitting it's there, it's empowering to say, I'm not perfect, but I'm going to do every little thing I can to be human and to be honorable and to treat people like I want to be treated and to follow the golden rule. But also to stand up against evil when it rears its head. And to just say, God, I'm weak. You know that. You made me. You know I have the depths of evil in me, but also the heights of creativity and everything you made me to be. And if it's your will that I'm going to survive this, that's your will. But all I want to be is a vessel to be thrown against the enemy. I turn myself over to you completely. That's all I can do. I'm small and I'm weak, but I'm strong in you. I willingly turn over my free will to you please help me to not be a wicked devil. Please help me to not be a wicked devil. Please help me to transcend this evil planet. I can't do it, but my free will you gave me, I want to be with you. And you're not going to find this in most of these churches, ladies and gentlemen. There are some good ones out there. In fact, I've met a preacher repeatedly that's friends with one of my friends who's definitely the real deal. And I want to start trying to go to his church. But I don't want to announce the church and then make it like a scene. But the whole point is that this is real, ladies and gentlemen. When you realize that we are in Mordor, this is not a game, that's why it's just stop thanking me now. I mean, I don't even have the skill to update InfoWars and make it look like a modern good website. I don't have the skill to even launch my nightly news show. I don't even have the skill to do all the things I want. I literally cannot stand myself. And I'm not saying this to make you feel sorry for me. I got to be honest with you. I cannot stand how I sound on the air. I cannot stand this radio show. All I want to do is defeat the New World Order, and I'm weak and can't do it. And I know there are those of you out there that feel like this as well. I mean, you just... it's overwhelming. I know I need R&R. I know I need to have a good time so that I'm relaxed. But at the same time, I can't even do that anymore. And I just... I need to take a sabbatical. I really realize that I need to, like, literally go camping for a month or something and just turn off everything and get away from everything. Because I'm not even stressed out at this point. It's just... the evil is so obvious and so ridiculous. I don't want to fight with the military. I don't want to fight with the police. I don't want to fight with the New World Order. But the New World Order at the top is pure evil. All their minions aren't even really evil. That's what's so sick about it. Forgive them. They don't know what they do. It's like Christ says on the cross, forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. Now that I have deeper knowledge of things, the public is so stupid and so pathetic and so dumb. I mean, how do you teach these people basics? The whole government should be overthrown today, that they teach kids 2 + 2 = 5. I know they teach kids 2 + 2 = 5. They teach our children 2 + 2 = 5. I mean, these people are the abomination desolation. I mean, they are anathema. They are absolute garbage. And then I realized it's just going to get 10 times worse. The bottom is falling out of civilization. And now I know it's all going to collapse. Nobody's going to stop that. And I can't even keep my personal world going straight. I'm not judging anybody. There's a spirit of delusion, a spirit of narcissistic evil. And you can see it. This civilization is rotten, is corrupt, and is weak, and it's going to go down. And the globalists intend to ride it all the way down by design and grease the skids of riding it down. And they're going to take in a greater evil on the other side of it. And my God, that's the answer. We've got to have a crash landing that a good society comes out of, not a technocracy that makes hell look tame. I'm not demonizing the New World Order. It is a demon. Our civilization is broken by design and is going straight into the arms of pure evil. I'm going to stop repeating the same thing over and over again and go to your calls. I apologize. Lewis in Florida, where do you see the world going? Thank you for holding. And what do you...
Alex.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? I love what you're doing, Alex. I see the world becoming a better place in the near future. I mean, we can defeat this New World Order. In the Bible, it says, we the people are all one with God. We all came from the same place. So if we all get together, it's a fact we will defeat the New World Order.
Yeah, if we just stop complying and recognize the New World Order, it will fall. Just recognizing evil will bring it down. But we have to recognize it.
Yes, we have to recognize it. And we have the tools already for us to defeat them. I mean, the social media, I mean, that reaches millions of people all around the world. If we spread the news and expose these tyrants, we will win. We have it right there in our faces, and we don't even see it.
Well, the globalists use scientific manipulation of people cold-bloodedly, and if we just become aware of their manipulation, then it doesn't have the power over us anymore, and it really is psychological slavery. I agree that I think we're going to come out of this better on the other side. The question is, how bad is it going to get before it gets better? What does your gut tell you the time frame is, Lewis?
I mean, we need to get Obama out of office. That's first of all. And it looks like he's doing whatever he could to stay in.
Well, at least even if he leaves, the bureaucracy is there now.
Oh, I mean, if he leaves, he's still got ties with Hillary Clinton. You know, I mean, why are we even still seeing these Clintons? Why are they around?
Well, exactly, and it's bigger than that. They're just front people as well. And Boehner won't even get rid of the Obamacare. And Republican Congress people say, oh, it's here to stay. We've got to beat the Tea Party. It's here to stay because the banks want it. The globalists want it. The big ultra-rich pigs that are tax-exempt want it. And the day people figure out why they want us fighting over race and stuff is because they're robbing all of us is the beginning of the end of these people. And the day we stop letting them have our money and our labor through these fake taxes is the day their blood supply is cut off. I appreciate your call, Lewis. Great points. Marcus in California, you're on the air.
How you doing, Alex?
I'm all right, brother. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I've been awake for a while since like 93, 95. The first thing I saw was America Under Siege. I'm 27 now, and it's just crazy the way the world's going.
You're talking about my film, America Destroyed by Design, or America Under Siege?
America Under Siege.
Yeah, who made that? I forget that film.
I'm not sure, but wasn't their house rocketed by a helicopter over a blog?
Yeah, that was back in the old days when they'd burn people's houses down that talked about this. And they killed Jim Keith, who wrote Black Helicopters Over America. Man, I read both of his books in the mid-'90s and thought they were kooky. And like 8 years later, I realized they killed him because that guy knew everything. That guy was saying the stuff I'm saying now 18, 20 years ago.
Exactly.
And they killed him deader than a hammer. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Hispanic, and I agree with you 100%. We're being balkanized. My family's a military family. My grandpa was a machine gunner in World War II, North Africa. My uncle was 101st Airborne, and I love this country, and I'm tired of seeing it being ripped apart.
Well, they tried under Bush and now under Obama to sell all this that we're racist if we don't open the borders up. We could open the borders up to 30 million people. We're not having kids. We need people just to pay the Social Security. The problem is that they're training all the people coming in to be anti-freedom. So what do you do about that?
Well, we just arm our population and just stay open-minded. Like the cartels across the border, the Zetas, they're able to come across here and kidnap people and able to land their helicopters here and supply us with drugs. It's just a losing battle that we just need to stay awake and pure of heart and just continue spreading the word.
Great points. God bless you. Anything else?
That's it, man. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, here's my deal. America's corrupt and got problems. Look at Mexico, a totally failed state. Why would our government and universities train everybody that the Southwest is Mexico and America's bad, we want to make this Mexico? Why would anybody want to make this Mexico? Why would anybody say you can't wear an American flag? Why would anybody teach 2 + 2 = 5? Because it's just total brainwashing. We'll be right back with James, Omar, and others. Oh, by the way, we got Porter Stansberry coming on. He's the guy that successfully predicted years before the 2008 implosion, the housing market, a lot of the big companies going bankrupt. We're going to get his predictions coming up here in just a few minutes. We're going to continue with your phone calls as well. Let's go ahead and talk to James in Texas. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Alex. I was just going to bring up I really think that the gross distortion of history is a big problem here in America. You can go see Emperor Maximilian the German aristocrat who ran Mexico at the Driscoll Hotel on 6th Street right now. So you have a misrepresentation of our history. I think as far as, where I see the future going, the stuff that you talk about over the past 10 years, has made, it's not so much telling what people to think, it's helping people understand how to think. I mean, there's a whole group of, analyst cadre types that you've created, out of InfoWars who really have an accurate, discerning picture of what reality is.
Well, I do want to say, and I don't say this to be arrogant, it's actually incredible that my radio broadcast and what we've done when it just comes to the analysis I've given historically, mainly because I go off the globalist own documents and can see their master plan, is about 99% accurate. And the picture is so horrible, people don't have the will to admit it to themselves. But they are setting up a global tyranny to dumb down humanity, scientifically, incrementally attack us, because we can't stop a slow-motion attack, they believe. They believe we will evolve to accept being destroyed, that we will evolve to our new mission, laying down and dying, to give them the future. They are artificially programming us to lay down and die and tearing humanity apart at the same time while they do it. I mean, it is so satanic. The only word to describe it is satanic. Go ahead.
I completely agree with you, without question. I mean, I've lived in Texas my whole life. You can't really go anywhere anymore without being constantly bombarded by satanic imagery. They do live satanic ritual on television all the time. I mean, but if you don't know what you're seeing, how are you ever going to know? Like, how could you even know that that's what's going on? Like I said, the future is not, is bleak in my opinion. Listening to Alex Jones, Infowars.com, you can't help but see that truth. But there is hope in the fact that, liberty and truth and freedom are popular ideas, and you can't force, you can't force these kinds of things on people. They have to discover it for themselves. So it's really the leadership factor in your communities, your neighbors, your church, your children, whoever they interact with at school. It has to be done on a
Well, yeah, I mean, take all the big pop people. They all do actual satanic rituals on television and then laugh at you and say, that's not what we're doing when you bring it up. And they believe they're invoking power when they do this. I mean, it's crazy. We are living on a weird planet in space with all this weird stuff going on. Reality is so fantastical. It's a lot bigger than one old racist at the Clippers. I mean, who cares? We're in the middle of deep space with all this wondrous stuff going on around us. And we're worried about some pot-bellied old man. We're going to come back and take more calls, and our guest is coming up. Well, he's one of my favorite interviews. Porter Stansberry of Stansberry Research is going to be joining us the next segment to give us his take on the world and where everything's going. We're continuing with your phone calls right now, asking about the future of the world. Where do you see it going? Omar in Washington, thanks for holding. Thanks for calling. You're on the air, sir.
Hey, this world we live in, it's a beautiful, rich, abundant planet. It's gifted to us by an all-loving, all-powerful creator who has breathed the very essence of divinity into all of us. And if you want to know the true path to enlightenment, listen to Master Yoda.
All right. Sounds good. I appreciate your call. Let's talk to James in Canada. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm on?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, good stuff. Hey, I just want to make 2 quick points, and then can I end with asking you a question before you let me go?
Go ahead, man.
Awesome. Okay, first number point, the whole race thing, it's just a distraction, all that. Where the world's going to that point, I don't think their New World Order ain't going to work out. What we're seeing right now is with the liberty movement in America is just exploding. You guys are going to win. You almost got Ron Paul in 2012. You guys are going to do it. And then in Europe, Nigel Farage and UKIP, they're going to get rid of the EU. And once they get rid of the EU, they're in some hot water. They have to go like, bam. Well,
I was about to say, though, the EU starting a war with Russia as the distraction to allow them to not collapse. I mean, they will start a war before they let the New World Order collapse.
Yeah, that's what they need to do. They gotta take the spotlight off them. They gotta start that big moment. But it's just so hard now because, you know, a nuclear war. No one wants to have a nuclear war except for these people. So I can't see it happening. We're gonna win it. Basically.
All right, James. Good to hear from you from Canada. Interesting points. Ryan, you're on the air from St. Louis. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, my comment's going to lead into my observation, but I just wanted to say that I woke up whenever I found out that the Vietnam, you know, the Gulf of Tonkin never happened, and that just led to everything else. And then I hear about, you know, Jimmy Savile, and then the addendum for him was he was actually a pedophile. And, you know, I can handle that as a smart-thinking individual, but where I think the future's going is, I mean, you have David Icke on sometimes, and we all know what he says. So, I mean, I think we hint at it, but I think we're headed for some interesting times in the next 15 years. Like, the veil's going to be lifted.
Well, I think the veil's already lifted to a great extent if people are willing to open their eyes up. But I think you're absolutely right.
But, like, you know, how you say we live on a planet in outer space, and, I mean, that fact needs to be considered above all else. I mean,
Well, I mean, I mentioned that to just talk about how fantastical everything is and how incredible it is and how just the experiences that we take as no big deal are so rare and wonderful. I mean, I was in the Colorado River Saturday being drug around behind a boat, you know, body surfing, hanging onto the back of the boat. And the water was like 65 degrees, just so refreshing. And it was so sunny and beautiful. And the trees were all psychedelic. And I had just such a magic experience with my children. That one consciousness, that one event would be worth the equivalent of a lifetime. That one experience was so deep and refreshing and real. And people all over the place just take it for granted. To walk outside at night and see the moon and the stars and to see life and just everything is so enriching and rewarding. And then meanwhile, the globalists want to put themselves in front of us like they're the universe, they're the world, they're the future. They want to make themselves reality and dominate our reality. They want to destroy our free will. These people are a joke. But the fact that they're so stunted and that they rule us is the bigger joke. Sorry, closing comment.
No, I agree with you that everything is beautiful and it's a wondrous time to be alive. But, I mean, do you think people can handle the truth if David Icke, you know, is even half right?
Who knows how deep the rabbit hole goes, man? I know the people running things want to hurt innocence and want to stunt humanity. I know we have loaded phone lines when Porter leaves us. If you want to hold Charles and Adam and Kathy and Lisa and Rich, folks from New Jersey to Rhode Island, from Texas to Vermont, we'll get to all of you. Porter leaves us at about 45 after, so I'll go to your calls then and some other breaking news. Here's some of the stories up on Infowars.com right now. Patriot Group protests Cinco de Mayo ban on American flag T-shirts. It's happening all over the country. And they've been called racist. CIA and FBI work with fascists in Ukraine as war in Europe unfolds. Ron Paul says Common Core is really the last straw. Very important exclusive interview with Ron Paul. Obama supports not... again, Mark Dice talked to Obama supporters, and they say not liking Mexican food is racist. This is how dumbed down the public is. Students, it's illegal to wear an American flag T-shirt on Cinco de Mayo. L.A. County Sheriff admits Big Brother is here, but we kept it pretty hush-hush. Getting into all the police state systems and drones and the rest of it. Israel wants to give Mount Zion and the Tomb of David to the Vatican. And another Ron Paul article he wrote, not an exclusive, but a Ron Paul article that's very important. Why we no longer are number one. That's just some of the top stories up at Infowars.com. Other stories, 90,000 Nevada residents could lose health care insurance due to Obamacare. Worst polls yet for the Democrats as just the beginning of Obamacare goes into place. So that's just some of the news on that front. Good news, I'm looking at Drudge right now, 6 abortion clinics left in Texas. people just are really waking up to those and saying no. So abortion clinics are shutting down all over the place as abortion becomes more and more unpopular in every poll, especially with young people. It's over 70% against it now. Those numbers are reversed since 1973 with Roe v. Wade. It shows that despite the mainstream propaganda and brainwashing, the truth continues to come from behind. The question is, how do we save our civilization from just the overall dumbing down of our society and our civilization? Now, Porter Stansberry of StansberryResearch.com is a hard guy to get on the air. He's one of my favorite guests to get on. He's very busy. And I remember reading some of his financial newsletters back in 2007. And really, I mean, it all came true. What he said in the housing market, what he said would go on with a whole bunch of things. And they've been able to paper over some of his latest predictions with unlimited quantitative easing. But in the real world, even with cooked numbers, we have 0.1% growth. Unemployment's incredibly bad, but they cooked the numbers there by kicking people off full-time work to part-time, so they got 2 jobs. So they say, oh, look, jobs are increasing. Everybody knows, for most people, the economy's in the crapper. But it's a selective economy now. It's so scientifically rigged that certain divisions are doing well while others aren't. Much of this country looks like a third world bomb zone or something. So I wanted to get Porter Stansberry on about the top stories he's working on, the cutting-edge breaking financial news and investments that he's looking into. And then I'm going to get him to talk about a one-time event coming up at the end of this month, one-day event in Dallas. T. Boone Pickens is going to be speaking at that event and so much more. And again, T-Boone, folks, is, I don't know allowed to tell you how much it is to even get him to speak. But you got Porter Stansberry, myself, Cactus Schroeder, Bill Murphy, Van Simmons. I'm going up there just to speak for free because I want to, be part of the Stansberry Research Society and all the benefits that come with that. Because they've invited me to other events that I couldn't go to, in other countries and things. But this is Dallas, so I said I'd come to the next one. I'm going to be there. AlexJonesDallas.com. They sold out of the main level of the ballroom, but they were able to open up the area right above it. And so, again, they've got limited tickets, 25% off the price that was already there. And it looks expensive, but you can go hear, somebody like Glenn Beck speak and pay more. But that's to pay for all the speakers to give you inside cutting-edge info from my perspective on the economy and more. I look forward to meeting T. Boone Pickens, the billionaire from Texas, and more. But again, AlexJonesDallas.com. That's not the reason Porter's here. Porter's here because I want to get his take on a whole host of issues. But I would imagine this will sell out. The first round did. They added some limited tickets. So AlexJonesDallas.com is how you go and find the direct link to find that 25% off Alex Jones Dallas. Okay, let's go to Porter Stansberry, the founder of Stansberry and Associates Investment Researchers. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, because this is kind of a cliffhanger. You always drop big news on us, Porter. What do you want to talk about out of the gates?
Well, I want to get to some things financially to help benefit people, because, as you know, Alex, that's what I really do. We research investment ideas for folks. We do so on an independent basis, so we're not bankers or brokers. We just sell information. And, of course, we only make money if people renew our newsletters, which means we got to put out the right information or we're going to go out of business. But I have an item that I thought was right up your alley, and I don't know if your team has found this or not yet. If you've already talked about it, then we can move on right away. But I thought it really interesting that, the new FATCA law is going to take effect July 1st. And FATCA, as I'm sure you know and your readers and your listeners already all know, is about closing down any ability for Americans to have offshore banking accounts.
Yes.
Has nothing to do, of course, with tax evasion whatsoever, because these are all accounts that are disclosed. It's all about the record keeping that is required and the requirement that these banks withhold taxes from any transactions. And there's just no way that they can meet these requirements. So if the government knows that, of course. So what it's doing is it's forcing a lot of investment dollars back into U.S. banks. At the same time, this just came out today. FINRA, which is the securities regulatory body that's owned and managed by the industry itself. So FINRA is not a government organization, but it is a government-like organization. So FINRA, just posited a new rule that's going to require every single securities dealer in America to open up every single private account to FINRA's own computers. And FINRA claims that they want access to your account in real time so that they can monitor whether or not your broker is providing the right advice for you. But the reality is it's now impossible for Americans to conduct investments with any privacy whatsoever because they can't use an offshore broker. And now FINRA is going to have constant monitoring in real time of every single investment account in the country.
And then they'll leave Goldman Sachs and all the big boys alone and harass, just like the banking bill was meant to shut down credit unions and small banks. This is a total monopoly setup taking place where they can also nickel and dime and harass investment advisors that are out there. This is a total consolidation. Meanwhile, CNN News reports today, too big to audit. Large partnerships escape IRS scrutiny. The big billionaires and the globalists are literally above the law. This is all being written to hammer the middle class.
But think about what this will do. I mean, one of the core foundations of a free market is that the buyers in the market don't know for certain who all of the owners are of another security. And the SEC, for example, doesn't make people disclose that they own a particular stock until their interest in that company rises above a threshold, usually about 5%. And so that allows investors who are smart and savvy to go ahead and take an interest in a business without having their work or their ideas stolen by other investors immediately. You see what I'm saying? So, Alex, if you happen to have a good reputation like Boone Pickens about oil and gas, and you're Boone Pickens, and you want your investors and yourself to take a position in a stock, you shouldn't have to tell everybody that in advance because that's going to make it impossible for you to build a position in that business or in that oil well.
So this is an NSA hub now directly into private investment to be fed to select interest.
Exactly. So what are the chances, right, that those FINRA computers end up getting bugged or monitored by the NSA? And what are the chances, of course, and I don't have any proof of this, but what are the chances that that information is surely being used in a lot of ways against people? And even something as simple as knowing, for example, how many individual investors own certain securities could be very, very valuable.
So they want this data to be able to rig the markets even more and truly kill the free market.
Exactly. I can't think of any other reason why someone would invest so much time and so much effort into trying to monitor every brokerage account in the United States in real time. That's an enormous technical challenge. And, of course, the only people with the authority to do it would be FINRA and the SEC. So just, this idea was proposed today, so it's brand new as far as I know. And if you're right about the way the world is going, then nothing will stop it.
Porter, can we go to Stansberry Research? Where do we find a news article about this? Because this is the first I've heard of this.
I don't know that we have written about it yet because it literally just happened this morning. So I would just recommend, if you want to learn more, you just go to Google and Google FINRA, F-I-N-R-A, FINRA and computer monitoring, and I'm sure that the article will pop up.
FINRA, F-N-R-A, computer monitoring. We're going to skip this network break. This is so important. I mean, that's what I see as just a general analyst who looks at the whole world and then connects the dots. Everything is having the ultra-high-frequency trading systems put into it. Everything's being meshed. All the corporations are dialing in. And Google and the NSA admit they can now predict the future, but then only the insiders are able to have that intel, completely rigging the entire system for themselves and trying to pull up the ladder so none of us can ever excel. This is a new dark age we're talking about, Porter.
Yeah, and the other big trend I wanted to give people is that, I have a lot of hard data to support Alex Jones's idea about the death of the middle class. In fact, one of the main investment themes in my newsletter for the last 3 years has been the death of the middle class. And so, for example, one of our latest recommendations was Rent-A-Center. And there's a huge growth in rent-to-own business because people's credit is so shot. 39% of Americans have lowest-ranked subprime credit, so they can't buy any kind of capital good anymore. And the rent-to-own industry, instead of building out more rent-to-own stores, is now just putting financing kiosks inside other furniture retailers so that there isn't the stigma anymore of having to rent furniture. So what happens is you go to buy furniture, and the furniture store says, I'm sorry, you don't qualify for a loan, but you can rent to own, and you can do that in our store. And that is driving tremendous new volumes of business to Rent-A-Center, actually, which is a pioneer in that market. That's one example of the death of the middle class that I found shocking. The other thing I found shocking when I looked at the numbers, Alex, guess how many of the loans that General Motors makes to retail car buyers are subprime?
Amazing. Keep going here. And by the way, I did type in FINRA rule. FINRA rule change to limit self-trading approved. They admit that they're going to place an algorithm onto the trading desk of everyone, basically. Anybody that trades stocks, anything, and it's going to surveil everything you do. And the algorithm is going to say if you're doing something wrong or insider trading or naked shorts. Basically, this outlaws normal activity, but it's not even outlawing. It's regulatorily saying it can't happen, but then letting the insiders engage in every crime imaginable, like derivatives marketing and the rest of it. This is incredible.
Well, the stated purpose of the FINRA rule, in my opinion, most likely has nothing to do whatsoever with the real purpose of the new FINRA monitoring. And the real purpose is that this is the most valuable information that could exist in the world. You don't even need to be a high-frequency trader. If you know what everyone owns and what everyone's trading, you can get in front of them immediately. So just think about how it's likely to be abused. But
this is real-time, total control of the trading desk before they even file stuff. This is literally like someone in your investment firm standing over your shoulder.
Yeah, and it's not just in my firm. It's in literally, it would be in every single retail account. So there wouldn't be an account anywhere that wasn't being monitored in real time by FINRA. This is absolutely the most Orwellian thing that I have ever seen in finance, and I thought I'd seen it all, but this is a whole different level.
Well, that's the issue here, Porter, is that everything has been lined up, beta tested, prepared. Now it's all going into overdrive. And it says here, the government will monitor you in real time for unethical policies or procedures, and that originating with an algorithm on your trading desk. And it's everything you just said. While you were talking, I read this memo. Most of it, it's 4 pages long. I am completely blown away right now. I mean, this is live time, hidden in plain view, NSA systems controlled by J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs, who have their arms in all of this through the Federal Reserve, giving the private Federal Reserve total surveillance of everything. I mean, this is the end of the market.
Well, listen, I want to be clear. With the story that I have seen so far, this is a FINRA rule, and FINRA is a privately controlled regulatory body that's run by the securities industry. But it definitely has very close ties, of course, to the other regulators you mentioned.
No, but what I'm saying is the NSA, this is how it works. This is on record, folks.
I know. Alex, I know.
No. I mean, I know you know, but let me explain. You've got the big universities, the military, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, and a handful of others that have full access to basically everything because they, in turn, dump everything they get into it. And the regulators all have these master heads-up displays where they can get into your bank account live time, everything. Everything is now online, and this is going to force the individual investment firms into that database for full access. I mean, do you disagree with that statement?
I can't prove any of those things that you said, but this is very, very disturbing to me, and I feel like it is incredibly suspicious. There is no regulatory need for real-time monitoring of accounts. The idea that FINRA can prevent financial crimes by monitoring your account in real time is nonsensical. So there must be another reason for it, and I know the value of that information that they're trying to collect.
Look, this is 100 light years ahead of Nixon having people's income tax returns. I mean, we see them using all this. They're going to leak this to the media. They're going to claim insider trading politically on everybody. This is a reign of bloody terror. In fact, I found a Money Beat article in the Wall Street Journal that just came out. Get ready for regulators to peer into your portfolio.
Right.
And
I know that's what we're talking about. I'm telling you, Alex, I have never seen any kind of violation of privacy of this magnitude ever suggested before. This is really, 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 truly scary.
Well, it's beyond the NSA because, you know, the government illegally spying on your data, ooh, it's a big felony. And then meanwhile, you have these governmentally empowered private consortiums. That's why I said Federal Reserve, same deal, masquerading as government that aren't.
Right.
And then they say, we're going to literally live time watch everything you're doing. This is outrageous.
So this is all part, of course, of a much larger strategy, is the paradigm that I've heard you espousing. And I have some reservations about that, as you know. I think people are sort of just all acting in their own best interest. But certainly we're not moving in the right direction. And I'd love to give you a stat about that. We're talking about the destruction of the middle class and how the growth of rent-to-own furniture is soaring again and doing it in a new way that is
it's like the payday loans, all of it, where people are captured in the system, can never get out of it.
Never getting out of it, right. But how about this? So the economy is supposed to be doing great, and the government saved General Motors, and now General Motors sales are booming, and everything is going to be great, right, Alex? Except for, do you know what percentage of General Motors cars that are sold, that are financed, what percentage of those financings are subprime? Any idea?
I have no idea.
Well, what do you think a reasonable number might be? I mean, if you were going to just guess, maybe 10%, 15% of car loans would be subprime, maybe 25%? It's 90%, Alex.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're absolutely raking people over the coals everywhere. And it's a debt paradigm that will collapse.
How many of General Motors' sales, right? Because almost everyone that buys a new car finances it. So how much of those sales are just being manufactured by these ridiculously low interest rates and by giving credit to people who are not credit worthy? And wait a minute, didn't we just do this in the housing market? So we have a government that had a vested interest in the success of a private business, which was General Motors. And the reason why is because of the union. So the government can't allow the union to fail, ergo it can't allow General Motors to fail. So we spent $50 billion of taxpayer money to bail out General Motors, losing about $15 billion along the way. Meanwhile, the unions took no haircut whatsoever.
And they're creating a new bubble that people can't pay, and then they'll lose their credit being raked over the coals.
So, right. So just to be clear, the bondholders lost 90 cents on the dollar, and the unions lost nothing on the dollar, and they didn't have a single penny of their pension fund discounted for the failure of their company. Okay? Meanwhile, the only way that General Motors is able to generate the revenue they have today is by giving people cars who have no credit. And what do you think is going to happen? Well, you know it's going to happen. These people are not going to be able to pay these loans. The cars are going to get repoed sooner or later, and the whole thing is going to devolve into another bubble. And if you want to see evidence of this happening, just look at how many consumer finance companies, that is, companies that finance the purchase of automobiles specifically, have gone public in the last 6 months. All these companies failed in 08 and 09. They got bought for pennies on the dollar by private equity firms. They've now come back all by giving credit to people who don't deserve it, and now they're all selling out to the public. Meanwhile, the default rate on loan securities, on debt securities that are backed with automobiles, the default rates are beginning to creep up, and the value of these securities is beginning to fall. And right before the whole house of cards collapses, you've got Wall Street selling these firms back to the public, and you've got General Motors rushing cars out the door with phony paper as fast as they can.
So let's be clear, just like the housing bubble, they're not just giving people loans that they'll never be able to pay back. They are selling these loans as derivatives. Do we have any idea how many times they're selling them over and over again?
That's exactly what's happened. So if you look at the entire asset-backed credit market, the only two areas of growth in the last 5 years are student loans and automobiles. So student loans are all owned by the government, so there's no point even discussing
And Obamacare is targeting young people as well. Stay there. I think I know where you're going with this, but one of the top experts out there, Porter Stansberry, is our guest. I just have to do 30 minutes of overdrive to take calls today because I want to really go through. I guarantee he's got like 10 other bombshells to drop on us. And I just got to get this guy on more often. You hear that, Porter? You got to start coming on, maybe even with a weekly update. Of course, he has his own radio show as well. You can find out more about that on his website. We'll give you that on the other side. Stay with us. I'm Alex Jones. Porter Stansberry is our guest. She's about to drop more bombshells on us, then we'll go to your phone calls. Briefly, don't forget, this hour is brought to you by the great folks at mypatriotsupply.com/Alex. If you don't have high-quality storable foods in this day and age, you're crazy. They've got the best prices, non-GMO, great customer service. mypatriotsupply.com/Alex or 866-229-0927. And they're the great folks that make so much of this broadcast possible. MyPatriotSupply.com. You can also buy their great storable foods and products at InfoWarsStore.com. And lastly, don't forget we've launched our own supplement line where I went out and did the research and found the most powerful tinctures that we could bring you of colloidal silver, of Super Male Vitality, of Nascent Iodine. That's why you've heard the rave reviews. The Super Male Vitality is now our #1 bestseller, even outpacing the special proprietary Nascent Iodine that blows people's socks off. This stuff is pure organic, concentrated herbs and extracts of fruit that even with my insane schedule, it's unbelievable. I mean, just listen. You want to fund the broadcast, go buy a bottle of it, see it as a donation to liberty and freedom and free market, and then you're going to be reordering it. It is unbelievable. You've heard the reviews. Try it. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. And it's hugely discounted, introductory rate right now, and thank you all for your support. Also, spread the word about our local AM and FM affiliates. You can literally tell everybody at work to tune into these affiliates across the country, or stop at red lights. I'll be driving into work to do the show, and I'll say, tune into 590 AM. Tune into 90.1. Tune into, I mean, every person is precious to wake up. People are ready to hear the message of liberty. In fact, Porter has some positive news and some other amazing economic tidbits, but I'm telling you, I put on events, and I've put them on at nice hotels, but not paid the speakers and everything, and had 2,000 people speak at them and had to charge $100. That's how much this stuff costs to fly people in and pay for a place that holds 2,000 people at a Sheraton or wherever, like we've done. We have events at Dallas with a theater, that holds 800, and I got to charge, $20 to be able to pay the bill. Just me speaking. Porter put $1 million on at their sold-out event in Miami, and they're doing this to really bring the top people together, to pay the speakers like T. Boone Pickens, who's a multi-billionaire, self-made, and all the other folks. They're going to give you, their real inside scoop at this event, the Stansberry situation. Porter didn't even break even on his last event. That's why the ticket's discounted 25%. They've expanded it when it's sold out at AlexJonesDallas.com. are still $400, and I'm not being paid. It's not bad for me to be paid. I'm not being paid to go to this. I'm one of the only speakers that isn't paid. I want to go because I want to be there. And it's the kind of event I like to be at. You want to be at a truly elite event, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. There won't be any riffraff there when it's $400. Okay, this is the real deal. So I'll see you there May 31st, and you support somebody who's really been out there aggressively promoting liberty like Porter Stansberry. Porter, talk more about the event, then I want to pick your brain some more.
Well, a couple of great things are going to go on at the event. One thing I can assure you is that if you have an interest in investing in the oil and gas renaissance that's going on in the United States, you're going to get more great information and absolutely the latest information at this event, because not many people know more about shale oil and gas and ultra deep offshore oil and gas than Boone Pickens and Cactus Schroeder, and also our resource analyst Matt Badiali will be there. And the thing that I would like you to that I wanted to sort of tease your audience about is there are multi-billion-dollar investments going on right now in these ultra deep wells in the Gulf. And if you remember the Macondo well that spun out of control, a lot of people see that only as a disaster, and it certainly was. But it was also an uncontrolled well that was spewing 60,000 barrels of oil a day. And that's one of the largest uncontrolled wells in the history of the oil and gas industry in America. To give you a comparison, the famous well Spindletop was only uncontrolled at 100,000 barrels a day. So this was a massive well. This was a breakthrough gusher. And the ability of the industry to find new giant wells like this and those ultra-deep locations is really growing thanks to things like 4D seismic and, of course, just the unbelievable things we can do now with horizontal drilling. So we can go 10,000 feet down underwater and then another 5 miles underground from there to find these unbelievable wells. And And there's a couple of really neat securities that I want to share with people that cover broad areas of this deep-water spectrum. A couple of really interesting royalty trusts, so you don't have any of the capital risk of funding these build-outs, but if they find oil, you can have a very large income stream. So royalty trust review, and then sort of a picks and shovels analysis of where all the money on the development is going to get spent. Again, taking away some of the risk for the investors, but giving them ways to participate in the huge investments that are being made.
Let me ask you this. Why did you invite me to speak? And you said I can speak about whatever I want. I want to talk about the future of media, the singularities that we're headed towards, and the fact that this will be the most volatile time in history we've ever seen. Will only get more volatile. I want to talk about the fact that the only prosperous society and safe society is a moral society. And that's why I believe all the important people that are going to be there better get aggressive politically or lose everything. And not just aggressive politically in the classical sense, funding libertarian causes. We better get super militant like the criminal socialist, or it's over. And they keep, you know, I mean, does that sound like a good topic, Porter?
Well, Alex, I think that I invited you to shake up my audience. You know, the 500 or so people that have registered through my business to be there are all almost exclusively high net worth investors that are coming to get information on making more money. And I think that they need to hear a message from you that the whole system that undergirds their ability to continue to build wealth is being threatened. And I hope that you can help them discover new ways of getting involved. You know, simple.
See, that's crazy. You're so smart, you didn't even need to tell me what to come to speak about. You knew what I would do. See, I wish I was smart like that, Porter. I'm not kissing your butt. You always amaze me how you just always get the combination of what something really is without being told.
Well, Alex, you're probably the leading guy in the world to give that speech, so I was very, very happy when we invited you and you graciously agreed to do it.
I wonder what T. Boone Pickens is going to think hearing it.
You know, you're going to be really surprised. I've had a couple of nice conversations with T. Boone, and he is definitely far more libertarian than he realizes. You know, I think he sees himself as a Republican, like a lot of people do. But he really is very leery of further growth in government. And he said some things that I think you're going to find shocking about the real purpose of the Iraq War, something that he really knew as a mover and shaker in Republican circles.
Wow. All right. Well, it's going to be hoity-toity. It's a very important information. Now, are you going to dole out any of these speeches on your radio show or on the Porter Stansberry website, stansberryresearch.com, or what's going to happen with that?
Well, we do have we have sponsors. We have subscribers of mine who have paid $1,000 to be able to get access to these presentations online. And so some of the speeches will be simulcast on the website. But otherwise, this is really only for the privileged use of this audience.
Well, that's what the free market's all about. I tell you, I'm honored to be at this event, and I hope folks will come to it and support liberty, because if people don't start voting with their dollars like they need to survive, we're going to lose everything, because this is really a death battle. We can now clearly see, Porter, the system is trying to take down everything with one fell swoop right now. So much evil is happening that I can't even keep my eye on it all. This is a bombshell you dropped on us about get ready for regulators to peer into your portfolio. It's the arrogance of it. Are they doing that because they know there's awakening happening? Or why are they moving so fast? And you said you also have some positive news.
Yeah, you know, Alex, the motivation of regulators is very simple. They want more power. And if you follow what they do and how they do it, it's all about aggregating more power in our society. I think it's very simple. And, you know, you've detailed the intricacies and the webs of how they go about doing it, but it's all for power. It's just that simple. And the good news, I think, that's going on in our economy really does focus on oil and gas. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse. But
no, this is the new renaissance. It's just like the discovery of oil caused our second industrial revolution. If we're able to get this super huge amounts of oil, it's going to really help us.
I really think even now people don't understand how transformative this has been, not just in the United States, but globally. So if you look, for example, at the amount of propane that the U.S. is able to export, we've almost quintupled the amount of propane we're exporting, and the only limit to that really is infrastructure. We don't have enough export ports yet. So we're of course, as I'm sure you're aware of, we're building massive new natural gas export facilities. They're going to be coming online in 2015.
And that's why they want to have a soft war with Russia to cut off their pipelines, and then the globalists through the U.S. can resupply Europe.
Well, listen, I don't know all the different reasons, but I can tell you this, that the willingness and ability of us to become a exporter of energy could be an enormous change politically in the world. It would allow us to stop military backing of so many regimes around the world where we've been told it's necessary for energy reasons.
But that's if the elite are moral. Here's the issue: they're putting.
I know they're not. I understand all that, but Alex, the fact is, if America begins to export 500 billion or so of energy every year, which I think is a reasonable target for say 2017, 2018, it is going to improve the competitive standing of America in the world.
So it's key to promote the oil and gas renaissance. I totally agree with you. And I know a lot of elites want that. The problem is Obama and the Cloward and Piven crowd, as you know, are killing the pipeline out of Canada, Keystone.
Listen, that there's lots of reasons for those things. But let me just argue back about one point when it comes to this, okay? Because for the last 15 years, I had to live with the nonsense crap about peak oil being shoved down my throat by all the elites.
Total crap.
It was the elites who used that lie to go to war in Iraq. It was the elites who used that nonsense to justify solar energy, which is a load of crap. And it was the elites who gave all of our tax dollars to people like Warren Buffett to literally build windmills. Are you crazy, Alex? This is not
I agree.
Denmark. This isn't Amsterdam. We don't need windmills.
This is Sparta.
It's a load of crap. And so, listen, there is some good news in America today, which is that real Americans, like the independent oil men of Texas, have said, oh, no, we're not out of oil, far from it. And America, by the way, America is on the verge of being the leading producer of oil in the world. In fact, Texas alone is now producing 2 million barrels of oil, crude oil, not gas, oil, every day, Alex. And that is more oil production than any country in the world except for Saudi Arabia. And that's just Texas.
Hail Texas.
So listen, we the people are going to own this oil because it's all small independent folks. It's not the Exxons. It's not the
I love it. I love it.
It's the small guys. And at my show, you're going to see a presentation about the leading new independent producers. I don't want to say the name of the stock, but this is a company that today is only worth $1 billion, Alex. And I bet you $1,000 will give it to your charity that this business will be worth $25 billion over the next 10 years.
Let me just stop you. I'm not poo-pooing what you're saying. And it's another example of the free market, even though Obama's been trying to block it while claiming he's for domestic oil exploration. And obviously,
he's done everything he can to stop it. But guess what? It's more money for the Interior Department. It's more money for him, which is exactly why he's changed his tune.
I was about to say, but they want Obamacare to stall the economy, Cloward and Piven, so it's kind of schizophrenic. Government wants more power and wants this oil money, and some of his constituent government people do actually want to help the economy because they're not evil. Even corrupt people don't want to ruin everything. Only the very top wants to do that because they hate America so much. So how do we then... That's what I want to learn. How do we make sure we're able to get this oil and natural gas and become massive net exporters and supercharge the economy? How do we beat the schizophrenia of the Democrats and some Republicans that want to ruin the economy to control us versus those that actually want to have a country?
Well, that's a very complicated answer, but I can tell you this. No one in the world knows more about the answer to that question than Boone Pickens, and you're not going to hear him speak anywhere else about that topic but except for on our show. And if you want, Alex, you can come out and ask him the question yourself.
Sounds good. No, I want to ask that question. How do we stop the people trying to strangle in its crib the second oil renaissance that can take this country to the next level?
Here, you know what? Here's a simple thing to think about, right? How many more oil train disasters are we going to have before Obama gets off his butt and lets people build safe pipelines?
Oh, I know. They won't let us have anything. And they've got all these well-meaning liberals that try to stop the pipelines. And there is some bad fracking that goes on, but that's usually, in areas, most areas it's very clean. But forget fracking. We can go to the super deep levels. Clearly, it's an agenda to shut down our energy needs. Look at the coal power plants, how they're shutting those off. Why does Obama want to shut American power off?
I don't know, but I actually think that coal is one of the most interesting investments you can make right now. It's been completely left for dead. people are forgetting it still makes up half of our base power. And there are really neat securities out there. Again, I'm going to refer you to this idea of these royalties trusts that are out there. There are ways that you can buy a royalty on huge amounts of coal where you're not responsible for any of the production costs. But if America keeps using coal, you're going to make a lot of money.
Well, I mean, we've got to keep using coal. It keeps the lights on.
Not just us, but it's going to power the Chinese economy as well for a very, very long time into the future. People out there are just sort of there's no area of the economy that most people know less about than energy. And these fools who think that by plugging in their cars that they're doing something to save the environment, it's just absolutely idiotic. So yeah, so you'd rather rely on coal, which is what's producing that energy you're putting in your car, right? You'd rather have a coal power plant that where you have to mine the coal, you have to ship it by train 1,000 miles or more to a huge power plant that puts out massive amounts of pollution, right? Then you've got to build an electric grid where you're going to lose probably 80% of the power in the transmission so you can put it in your dumb car.
I see people downtown with those cars, and I want to send my reporters out, and the Volts and those, I only see a few of them, and I go, you know they've done the equations, and I have the news article, where this takes more energy and more CO2 than oil. And they go, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, racist. I mean, they're just so stupid.
Right. I don't want to drive a Prius because I'm racist against Japanese people. I get all the same nonsense all the time, Alex. It's just so silly. And people who think that, we can power the world with lily pads and bunny rabbits and nonsense like that. It drives me straight up the wall. And what really drives me up the wall is that they want to spend my tax dollars on this nonsense. It's absolutely insane. But you know what? It is worse in other places. Look what has happened to the industrial production of Germany thanks to their massive investments in solar
Look at Spain.
Power.
They literally blew the engine of Spain.
They're literally destroying their economies by subsidizing ridiculous investments in solar power plants. Hey, Alice, did you know what you'll find in the middle of every solar power plant in the United States? Natural gas. A natural gas pipeline, natural gas generator. It's just such nonsense. The only power actually getting produced at all those plants is made by natural gas.
Natural gas is amazing. Do one more segment. I'll go into overdrive and go to Charles, AM, Kathy, Lisa, Rich. I'll get to all of you. Looks like I'm going to do a half-hour overdrive here today. Porter Stansberry's our guest. I mean, this guy, I need to get him on every week. I mean, he's really interesting. I like him. We'll be right back. And we're going to go into overdrive and go to your calls. I'm going to do an extra 30 minutes for you folks. You've been holding. We end up getting a lot of calls, and a new guest comes on, and everybody sits on hold. Most talk shows just hang up on everybody. We don't do that. But be ready. We're going to go to you. Porter Stansberry's our guest here in the final segment. I agree with you that innovation, the globalists all admit this, we should all be working 2-3 days a week. It should be a society based on what do you bring to the table, not how big of an insider are you. And so it's the crony capitalist versus the real capitalist, with the crony capitalist scapegoating the real free marketers and the real Renaissance men and women out there. We have to tell our story, as Ron Paul has said, that collectivism creates a living you-know-what hole versus free market that creates a heaven. The problem is a free market creates a heaven, then your kids become spoiled, their kids become demons, con artists come in and take over. How do you stop the lottery effect where 95% of people that win lotteries and statistics end up in jail, dead, or broke in 2 years? How do you stop it when you have a free market? It makes so much money, everyone turns into spoiled, rotten demons and then attacks whoever's producing and isn't an immoral scumbag. How do you stop the delusional nature of, the classic thing of the spoiled wives or the rich husband or the spoiled kids? I mean, how do you stop that? Because that is a paradox, Porter Stansberry.
You're exactly right. I see it all the time. And I would say that our country came up with a great solution to that shortly after we were founded, and that was our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And that the real way to put a stop to that cycle of depravity is to make it clear to people that they cannot use the government as a tool for appropriation. They can't do it. You're not going to be allowed to vote yourself somebody else's wallet. And Alex, I know you don't get to travel very much because of your show, but I would urge you, if you ever get the opportunity, to go to Singapore. Because in the last 50 years, Singapore went from being one of the poorest places on earth to being literally the richest. Singapore, on a per capita basis, is far wealthier than America. And when you are in Singapore, everyone tells you the same thing, which is really simple. It's a whole national slogan. Nothing is free in Singapore, and they're proud of that. There is no welfare. There is very little regulation. Nothing is free.
And like Switzerland, they got money coming out their ears.
And like Switzerland, they got money coming out their ears. So how can we spread the idea that folks who are living at the expense of their neighbors aren't Americans and they don't deserve our respect or our sympathy? They're leeches on our society, and they must be stopped.
Well, look, everybody knows, like in Japan, they have those monkeys that live in the woods, and everybody's been feeding them, so now they're all obese and have diabetes and are lazy and beat each other up all day. I mean, it's made the monkeys totally immoral. I saw a TV show on it. I mean, it's a fact. Domestication ruins creatures.
Yeah, I don't have to go to Japan to see that. I live in Baltimore.
Well, our society is crumbling, and what do we do now that we're in a democracy, not a republic, and 51% can literally vote to make me their slave? What's going to happen?
Well, I can tell you what's going to happen. That those systems are going to continue to increase in power and in wealth until they collapse. And, you know, I mean, Alex, in the city of Baltimore, I'd say 75% of the residents in the city are the underclass. And they have no desire to work. They haven't worked in generations. They're completely dependent upon the handouts and the largesse of the producers. And guess what? That cohort and that population continues to grow and to have big families that they can't afford. And then what do the workers do? Well, eventually, like it's already happened in Detroit, the workers leave. So the whole, I mean, if you want to see the future of America, spend some time in Detroit.
America's future, Detroit. Porter Stansberry, look forward. I feel like I know you all these years interviewing you. Look forward to seeing you in Dallas the 31st. AlexJonesDallas.com. They added more tickets on when they sold out. If you want to go, it's a one-time event. Ladies and gentlemen. All right, Porter, thank you so much. You got to promise to come on more often, okay?
Anytime, Alex. Thanks very much.
I'll say bye to you during the break. We're going to come back in overdrive, Infowars.com/show. If some stations don't carry it, it'll be PrisonPlanet.tv, video streams, and audio, but a lot of stations carry it. We'll be back with the fourth hour. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231. 30 minutes of calls right now on the big question, what is the future of the human race? Charles in Rhode Island, you're a trooper for holding for an hour. Then Adam, Kathy, Lisa, and others. Charles, you're on the air.
Greetings and salutations, freedom fighter extraordinaire.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Basically, one-third of the earth dies in the plague. World War III comes along. I mean, one-quarter of the earth dies in the plague. Then the Antichrist unites the 10 nations of the earth, rules for the 48 months, which is 3.5 years, kills one-third of the earth, and then he is eliminated. And then you get to live the 1,000 years by the scriptures. All the medical technology comes forward, and we get to live for 1,000 years, because that's the only reason why they haven't started World War III yet. The one world government, the global leaders. They
want to have the advanced technologies. You know, this is what I got to say. Even if you don't believe in God and the Bible, what it really says, what Genesis really says, what Ezekiel really says, what Daniel really says, what Revelations really says, is all coming true like a science fiction movie. And there's no way those people could just be making all this up. And it's bizarre. I mean, it really is a riddle wrapped in an enigma that the UN is setting up a system they call 10 kingdoms with sub-regions, and each region's into 10 regions. We have 10 FEMA regions. And they even, I mean, they follow the Bible. That's the weird thing, is the elite are following the Bible judiciously, and they believe in the devil and worship him. They believe the devil's going to win. And again, I've studied them. They believe in Lucifer. They believe Lucifer's the good guy and Jesus is the bad guy. They're Rosicrucians. What do you think of that?
Well, the oldest religion in the world is the worship of Moloch. They come from before Babylon. And that's, you know, the elitists of the earth are really into Moloch, right to the ninth degree. So that's where we're really headed at, is they're trying to force the Moloch religion right into our religion by getting rid of God and all. And at one point, the friction will go kaboom, and God will win, because good always wins out over evil. Unfortunately, evil is 49.9% of the world, and good is 50.1%. That's why good always wins over. But evil's got its foot in the door, and it's coming in. You ain't stopping it.
Yep. Very powerful call. I just can't believe it all. It's all happening. I just can't believe it. I mean, I just marvel we're living in the times that John wrote about. Any way you slice it, even if it isn't real. We know John was a real guy in the Roman histories and the Jewish histories. We know Jesus was a real guy. But, I mean, even if you don't believe the whole story of the Bible, I'm just for argument's sake, the elite are using it like an instruction manual. You know, 1984 isn't supposed to be an instruction manual. That's what I say to Hillary Clinton. We're going to go to break because this is a short segment. I want to give everybody their due. Adam, Kathy, Lisa, Mark, we're going to go to your calls on the other side. Just bam, bam, bam. But just 6-7 years ago, they would deny that they were spying on us with the NSA, even though it was public. And whistleblowers had gone public. They went public in the mid-90s. I interviewed them. They went public again in 2000. They let Snowden get big. Snowden was real, but they let it get big because now is the time to throw it in your face. Steve Pachenik called me, one of the big insiders, back when it first broke. He goes, "It's the coming out of it, Alex. It's all on purpose. It was known he would do it. And it's to predict the future, Alex. And it's now time for everyone to know, Alex. And I know General Alexander, he's good. And we would like to be friends, Alex. You can't stop it, Alex." The psychiatrist, Steve Pachenik, former head of PsyOps for the State Department. And it's just all right there. And so and now it's like everything you do is watched in lifetime. Yes. And the SWAT team standing by to come kill you. And then they're using the data to screw everyone over. That's the thing. We are in overdrive here on the 5th day. 5th day, ladies and gentlemen, of May 2014, going right back to your calls. But first off, I wanted to play this clip, a couple of the excerpts of Obama and the Correspondents' Dinner that happened this weekend. And you notice that it was all over the news that a lot of Hollywood stars and people shunned it like the plague. They didn't want to go to it. They didn't want to be part of it because they said they would be exploited. It's all about being chumped. Evil people like to chump folks. And then I'm going to play the whole Mark Dice thing and skip the break and go to your calls. But first, here are the Obama clips.
At one point, things got so bad, the 47% called Mitt Romney to apologize. MSNBC is here. They're a little overwhelmed. They've never seen an audience this big before.
That's right. Your state-run media is a joke. It's your job to convince everybody to vote for you and then betray everyone. His whole nature.
But look, everybody is trying to keep up with this incredibly fast-changing media landscape. For example, I got a lot of grief on cable news for promoting Obamacare to young people on Between Two Ferns. But that's what young people like to watch. And to be fair, I am not the first person on television between two potted plants.
You know, we'll play more of it after we go to your phone calls. I want to get to your phone calls, but here is more of Mark Dice. The video's up on Infowars.com, and I'm going right to Adam, Kathy, Lisa, and Mark here in just a moment. But here is Mark Dice on Cinco de Mayo. And then we will continue with your calls. Straight ahead.
What do you think about these Republicans, their racist statements? John Boehner said that he doesn't like Mexican food. Should we tolerate such bigotry?
No.
Do you think maybe we should he should be pushed out of Congress for such racist statements?
Well, I think people in his district should consider voting for somebody else.
Does the term public servant sound like an anachronism to you? Something from a bygone era where people believed that the government worked for them? When they paid the salaries, they believed they were the masters? Well, the mindset among most people in government today appears to be that they are the masters, we are the slaves, and many of the slaves have that same attitude. Take this story out of Louisiana. A mother's concerned when her asthmatic son turns red, complains of chest pains, so she calls for an ambulance. Now, the EMS personnel don't show much concern for his medical condition. In fact, even though he's pointing to his chest, according to the mother, they say, well, he's pointing to his stomach, so he's not having any chest issues or asthma conditions. And then they start to ask why he's not in school. When they find out that he's homeschooled, they begin an inspection of the house. Taken back by this, she confronts these EMS personnel, and they say, well, we're agents of the state. So she calls the supervisor and complains, and he says, they're agents of the state. Now, that's in Louisiana. In North Carolina, a sheriff is talking about the immense powers that he has over your life as part of his election campaign. In an article from Lou Rockwell's blog that's on InfoWars, Sheriff Ed Brown, the delusional dictator of Onslow County, North Carolina, he writes on his election flyer, the vast majority of our duties and functions are performed with only our conscience watching and directing us. And that's a big part of the problem. We see over and over again that violent confrontations with the public, unjustifiable violence and brutality against the public is rarely, if ever, disciplined against the officers who commit these offenses. They're protected by the police department or by the unions. Rarely does anything ever happen to them, so they get this message loud and clear. This is the rest of his flyer. Those in the law enforcement profession have complete power over you, your life, your family, your loved ones, your rights, your freedom, your future, everything precious to life. From the very word of a law enforcement officer, all those precious things of life hang. We've seen over and over again that attitude, not only from law enforcement, but from every government agency, that they have complete power over you, your life, your family, everything hangs by a thread, hangs by their discretion, that they're not accountable to anyone. Were those remarks out of context? Were they misconstrued? Actually, Sheriff Brown's supporters have essentially doubled down on his remarks. Here's what one person wrote to a newspaper. Officers can ask you to get out of their car. They can handcuff you to protect themselves. They have a lot of power over your life. If you're in a dangerous situation, your life is in their hands. No, actually, he got that wrong. If your life is in their hands, you're in a dangerous situation. This sheriff is up for re-election this Tuesday. And look at what he did at a forum where he's debating his opponent. He actually accused his political opponent of being involved in bombing threats that were carried out by an 18-year-old. The way that he made these threats was with a threatening phone call, which was recorded.
This young man has told me you're the reason for his bomb threats. And the general public is going to believe that.
You hear Brown on the phone with his longtime friend and challenger, Hans Miller.
When somebody makes false allegations without corroboration, that, to me, is a loss of integrity. And integrity, once lost, can never be gained back.
That's right. He makes these vague threats, and he says, well, I don't know what to make of this. I'm just going to have to call in the media and let them decide whether this is true or not. A threat, trying to get the guy to back off.
I find there is absolutely no credible evidence to support such an allegation against Hans Miller or his campaign.
But of course, the district attorney says it is totally unprofessional, and it's not the first unprofessional thing this guy has done. This now borders on the ridiculous. This same North Carolina sheriff, Sheriff Brown of Onslow County, used a wire hanger as a divining rod to search for a buried body. Now, this is being reported by the SBI, the State Bureau of Investigation, North Carolina. And what he did was he took this divining rod and he walked back and forth over the area so much that he erased any footprints, hampering the investigation. So the question is, though, who is dumber, this sheriff or the people who will vote for him?
All right. We're skipping this network break, going right to your calls. We had some TriCaster computer breakups earlier. That's why we went to rebroadcast for a while. And that happens sometimes with live radio. I know everybody understands. That's why I've had you sitting on hold. Great job with the crew in there. But I'm glad we got to some of those reports that the guys have been filing. I mean, you sit there and you see the way the sheriff acts. It's government on a power trip believing they're infallible. It's like TSA workers repeatedly have declared themselves God. Started trying to rape women in one case. Another case at LAX, the guy strips down naked and starts running around screaming, I'm God. I mean, these are people who couldn't get a job at McDonald's, and now they're bossing people around all day. Only a mental midget would want a job dominating good people all day. And so that's what we're getting as the bureaucracy looks for the type of people that will become oppressors. Is people that are so mentally stunted It never gets old to boss people around for no reason and to bug their eyes out at you and to start fights. All right, Adam, Kathy, Lisa, and Mark, then that's it for the transmission. Thanks for holding. Adam, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, can you hear me?
I'm good, sir. Yes, thanks for calling.
All right, yeah, so you asked, like, what we think is going to happen, you know, as time progresses, and as you said, like, you know, a lot happens more in a month than, you know, 10 years or decades and stuff like that. I think you're right. There's going to be staged terror attacks. They're going to blame the Liberty Movement, and, you know, martial law is going to happen, and maybe, you know, world wars will start. When that happens, we don't know what to do, but we can be sure that you know, like you said, the Bible is right. You know, Revelations is true, and what is being said. But I want to tell you that one thing that the New World Order has lied to people about is that you have another enemy, and then they point to that enemy as the Muslims. And what most Christians don't know, and I know you're a believing man. You seem like a man serving God's purpose, and I commend you.
Sure, it's the same God. Going back to Abraham.
Exactly. No, definitely. And one thing I want to show you, like one verse in the Quran that it says, you know, and you will find the nearest of them in affection to the believers, those who say we are Christians. That is because among them are priests and monks and believers, because they are not arrogant. So, you know, I see you as a brother in that struggle. Muslims also believe the return of Jesus Christ as well. We believe in the Antichrist. We believe that, you know, Jesus healed the blind and the lepers, and he walked on water all through God's will. This is the divinity that we disagree with, and that's fine. But for right now, what we have to understand is that there are 1.6 billion Muslims. There are 2.3 or so, you know, billion Christians in the world. That's 4 to 5 billion people, you know, that you have against the globalists that know what's coming, or maybe they're just a little bit distracted. But the truth is that, you know, we are all, you know, brothers and sisters of Adam, and that we are all, you know, we are our ancestors as well as we are, you know, our offspring.
Well, there's no doubt that they're trying to radicalize Christianity to just be, you know, a globalist tool, and they're trying to radicalize and fund some of the groups in Islam.
Those jihadis are not Muslim, by the way. Like, obviously, those guys do not follow.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, the Pentagon and Wesley Clark's talked about this, and we have the PNAC documents. The plan is to have Christians and Muslims kill each other. They call it the clash of civilizations, while the globalists sit on top doing it. And look at how Obama is turning the jihadis loose everywhere. Why not give them another peace prize? It just shows it's chaos, just like they're playing one group off against another. Great points. I appreciate your call.
One more thing, though, one more thing to say to your viewers. 30% of the slaves that came from West Africa here to the United States were Muslim. And so there are Muslims fighting the Revolutionary War. So, you know, God bless America, God bless you, and God bless us all. Amen.
Well, I think we all should work together towards the basic liberty and freedom and Bill of Rights and Constitution, and that the globalists do want to divide us. But then they come in with a false system and say, no, everyone should give up their culture and merge into the globalist system. They have a false equality. Equality means that we all get to have freedom. It doesn't mean that we all have to agree with each other. And I was against the Iraq War. I'm against it all. And I understand what you're saying. And it's essential that we don't allow this clash of civilizations. But then if I say these radical, you know, Islamic fundamentalists, they're being globalist directed, are really bad people, I see some Muslims on Infowars.com saying, oh, you're attacking Islam, blah, blah, blah. You know, look, I'm not attacking the Western Ukrainians that are really overthrew the government or stirring all this up because they're Christians. It has nothing to do with it. They're being manipulated as well. The globalists will use surface differences, and that's the thing. There's always a third party. It's not just Muslim against Christian or Catholic against Protestant or Catholic against Orthodox or whatever, or atheist against Christian or Mexican against Anglo or Anglo against black or whatever. It's all on the surface to get us fighting with each other. I know everybody knows this. While the globalists rob everything. That's all I'm saying. There are real differences. There are issues there. But the point is the globalists only bring it up to create a fight. Kathy in Texas, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
You're absolutely correct, Alex. Absolutely correct. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can. What's on your mind? Thanks for calling.
Well, to Adam, I would like to say I buy my raw milk from a Muslim. I'm not a bit afraid. And I wanted to remind you, Alex, that every time the evil ones try to drum up demons, it plants this Christian's feet on the ground, and she falls to her knees and prays that much harder. It tells me that Jesus Christ, our Lord, our Savior, is very alive and well.
Where do you think well, thank you. Where do you think the future of the world's going? What's your gut tell you?
I'm hoping my grandson won't ever have to die. He'll live through the tribulation and straight on through the 1,000 years.
I hear you. God bless you. Yeah, the biggest lie in the Bible, and I don't want to get into sectarian fighting, it's just the whole Bible, people have to go through stuff. They don't get teleported out until they've already gone through a lot of it. And clearly, in the Bible, the devil wages war against the saints, and all this persecution goes on. And then at the end, God raises up the dead in Christ. And that's what it says. It doesn't say before. It's like this total cop-out. Hey, this is too scary. I mean, the pre-tribulation stuff, rapture, is only about 180 years old. No one ever taught that. It's totally made up. But they've made it like a sacrament of the Protestant faith that you're not a Protestant if you don't push that and believe it. And look, all I know is, you talk about a great deception coming upon people. No, who's going to fight the evil if everybody thinks, oh, that's fine, you know, we're going to get teleported out of this? I said, that doesn't make sense to me. You're not going to go out and confront evil, but God's going to take you out of it? A lot of people in Nazi Germany thought he was the Antichrist. It was the end of the world. So they rolled over to him. Didn't go too well. They teach that it's demonic what the Founding Fathers did fighting tyranny, because you were supposed to just submit to it, just the will of God. That sounds like Hinduism or something, that you're supposed to be born in squalor and it's your life, and you're supposed to have nothing because you're in a lower caste. God helps those that help themselves. I know that. You do the right thing. You go up against an enemy bigger than you, time and time again with courage. God will do things for you and give you providence. But it doesn't happen until you make the connection like electricity. You got to reach out to God, and God will reach out the rest of the way. I've experienced that. You've got to you don't just magically think something. You go out and you do it. That's the secret, folks. They got books about the secret where you imagine something and it happens. No, you have to do it. And it has to be good as well. Let's talk to Lisa in Vermont. Lisa, you're on the air. Go ahead. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Alex. Thank you for taking my call. I've been a listener of yours about 4 years now, and I can honestly tell you that I do not remember when the first time I heard your name or listened to your radio show, but it was like I can't remember my life before listening to your show, because I was never a political person. I never really thought about it. I was just busy into my life and thought America is great and we don't have to worry about anything. And even after 9/11, I wasn't really thought it was all the, just the terror. I didn't think there was any government involvement or anything like that. But after listening to your show, researching, I found, all of these things coming up. And so for, me, I'm 57 years old. I got kids that are about your age. I got grandchildren, and I worry about them because me, personally, it doesn't matter. I could drop dead tomorrow. I don't make a lot of money. I work a part-time job, and I probably will have to drop dead on the job because I can't afford to retire. But for me, it's not that important. But for my children and my grandchildren, I see terrible things happening. So I try to do my part. I try to tell people what I've learned. I've brought some of my family members around. I get them to listen to you. I've handed out your magazine.
Great job. Very touching. We're out of time. We're going to rebroadcast. Thank you. Call me back again. God bless you, Lisa. Sorry to Mark and others. Great job to the crew. 3.5-hour transmission today. The globalists are setting our future. They're deciding our destiny. We don't need that. We need free will. God bless you all. Great broadcast. Thank you so much, ma'am.